Kentucky Down Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Nashville Soccer Club news yesterday. Forward Sam Surridge was named to the 2026 MLS All-Star team for the second consecutive season. Nashville leads the MLS with 4 All-Stars. That also includes previously announced first 11 selections Hani Mukhtar, Andy Nahar, and Brian Schwacke. In Major League Baseball news, pitcher Justin Verlander announced on Wednesday that he will end his MLB career at the 2026 season. The 43-year-old is playing in his 21st season and has a long resume that includes 266 regular season wins, over 3,500 strikeouts, 3 Cy Young Awards, and 2 World Series championships to go along with an MVP. Today, the World Cup quarterfinal begins as France takes on Morocco at 3 p.m. on Fox. It's a rematch of the 2022 World Cup semifinal where France beat Morocco 2-0. France is looking for its 3rd consecutive World Cup semifinal appearance and with a win today. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Good morning. How did everybody manage their first day without the World Cup in our lives? It was just a void that I'm looking forward to seeing France back on the pitch later this afternoon. I know Robert is protesting the World Cup. I know I was faking protesting the World Cup after Egypt was robbed, but we'll get back to World Cup action today, tomorrow, and 2 games on Saturday. We have various football discussions to have with you today, and your participation is welcome as always. 615-737-1045, the number. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch is how you get involved if you would like to live stream the show via the F&M Bank chat. So Robert and I were thinking about what to open the show with because there were no sports of consequence in either of our lives yesterday for us to come in here and talk about. There's not really much going on in the news cycle. And so just kind of scouring the internet and thinking of ideas, I said, well, we haven't talked about Cam on Netflix's quarterback series very much. And I don't know how much discussion is actually there to be had before we see the episodes of these things themselves. And he is going to get some standalone attention here. It saves the NFL from having to put a franchise like the Titans, and by like the Titans, I mean a small market franchise that is not going to bring audience to HBO, saves HBO and the NFL from having to put the Titans on Hard Knocks as a standalone thing. This year's division is what? Well, what are the various Hard Knocks? Because we usually get an off-season Hard Knocks, a training camp Hard Knocks, and now we get an in-season divisional Hard Knocks. And I feel like the divisional one was pretty good this year.
I can't remember what the divisional one, but the first one we get is the Seattle Seahawks being featured on Hard Knocks.
Okay, so that would be the off-season Hard Knocks for the defending Super Bowl champions.
Which is the first time in the show, in the 25-year history of the Hard Knocks that they get to show the off-season of a Super Bowl champion.
See, this is why I do feel for Titans fans, because at some point you understood that your team, as being a part of the NFL, is in some kind of a rotation, that you at least have a lottery chance to appear on one of these standalone television or streaming programs that they've kind of robbed you of, right? Now that these things cost an outrageous amount of money, now that Thursday Night Football costs $80 million a game for Amazon to purchase, they're saying, no, I don't want the Titans and the Jaguars on Thursday Night Football anymore. I want a better quality product, or at least a product that is going to yield me more return on my investment. The various versions now of Hard Knocks and things like quarterback, different outlets that you can consume these things, kind of gives the league an out from having to put a franchise like the Titans or the Cardinals. I think the Jags probably fit this bill too. You could go through any number of lesser or not as popular NFL franchises and say, well, yeah, they're kind of getting shafted because they should be a part of this rotation. They've been waiting some time. Titans, to my knowledge, have never been featured on Hard Knocks, and now they don't really get that opportunity. The quarterback documentary series, if we want to call it a documentary series. Robert, you don't watch it as somebody who's just all NFL for the most part?
Because it's not really like what I want from the NFL.
Okay.
Like, I like the nerdy roster construction. Why are they making these decisions?
You like the actual football.
And not so much about like the lives of the quarterbacks. I'm sure there are things you can glean from this, but it just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah,
like,
this is Real Housewives of Seattle.
Basically.
Hard Knocks is the male version.
No, you said it right. Hard watch. You're right. It's a hard watch for me.
I have not. So the last full season of Hard Knocks that I watched would have been Baker Mayfield's rookie season.
No, I do like Hard Knocks. I was talking about the quarterback show. The quarterback show would be a hard watch for me. At least in Hard Knocks, like, you get to see how the coaches interact with the players.
You do see some of that.
And why they make certain decisions that they make, the behind-the-scenes stuff. I didn't glean much of that from quarterback. I feel like they're generally protected on quarterback.
Well, that's the thing, okay? What do you want out of this as a fan? The Tubi thing, so I poked fun at the Cam Ward. It was reportedly at the time a 6-part Tubi documentary series on the life and rise, for lack of a better term, of Cam Ward from 0-star recruit to number 1 overall pick. And the thing was titled 0-Star Recruit. And it ended up on Tubi, which is a free streaming platform. We did not, I don't think any of the three of us watched it. Now, it's not, I mean, the only one of us who that would be even remotely marketed to is Lucas, because Lucas is the only Titans fan on the show. Lucas is a Titans fan. I feel like we can say that even if he's a working professional and does separate himself pretty well from that. So the only person among us that would have been outwardly interested in that is Lucas, and I don't think Lucas cares about that kind of stuff. Like you. I don't think he's interested in the Days of Our Lives football edition, which is basically these, let's get a camera crew and follow the famous athlete around. Robert did find one person that wrote a review on the Cam Ward Tubi series, which ended up being 3 parts as opposed to 6. And the fun that I poked at it at the outset was, okay, like it is a good story. It is impressive for him to go from a wing T offense in college to Incarnate Word to Wazoo to Miami and break the all-time or the career college football touchdown record, which I think Case Keenum previously held, and all of the things that Cam Ward did en route to becoming the number 1 overall pick. But my position on it was, while I appreciate the story and the path that he took to get here, I don't much care about what he has done as somebody who will now cover him in the pros. I don't much care about that. He's not Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan's thing was 6 parts. I don't need 6 parts from Cam Ward before he's played a snap. I didn't need 6 parts from Michael Jordan. I needed the 2-part Tiger Woods thing, and that's it.
Well, we needed it in COVID.
We needed it during COVID. But even the last episode, I'm like, all right, this is just a Gatorade Nike commercial.
Yeah, you took it personally. I get it.
But also, Robert, I've been screaming about this. Lucas used to roll his eyes at me until one of these things came out about the U.S. men's national team, okay? Because my whole position on sports docuseries is that they are no longer documentaries, and it is just a famous athlete that is granting you access in exchange for a favorable view of their story. A view of their story that they have the ability to doctor and edit to make it look favorable to them.
The Miami documentary.
The Miami, you're talking about?
Of the Miami Hurricanes, where they didn't really show anything. Or no, the Florida, excuse me.
Florida was like this. I think the Manziel thing was not nearly as in-depth as it should have been. If you're really going to tell the Johnny football story, like I want to see the dark parts, not just, mention them in passing and move on, which is what the Florida thing was. I believe it was HBO that did one of these on the U.S. men's national team, and it was a bit of in the soccer world, it was controversial when this thing came out because we had talked about this as a radio show. You may not remember this, but the coach, Greg Berhalter, at the time of the U.S. men's national team, had decided that Gio Reyna, the son of Claudio Reyna, who's a famous figure in U.S. men's national team history, Gio Reyna was not going to receive the kind of playing time that Claudio Reyna thought he should get. And the Reynas and the Berhalters, family friends, the Reynas, his parents, started to leak information about a story about Greg Berhalter being too physical with his wife from the 90s to try and embarrass Greg Berhalter into giving Gio Reyna playing time, okay? It's a pretty significant part of the story of that year's World Cup situation, of that year's men's national team. And they didn't cover it at all. They didn't mention it. They didn't touch it. It's a huge part of the drama around that team, a huge part of the inner workings of that team. And they didn't touch it at all because it's uncomfy and because the people involved said, no, if we're going to participate in this thing, you can't talk about this. And I'm not interested in that, okay? Hard Knocks has become that. Hard Knocks always kind of was that. Quarterback is the worst version of that to me because quarterback is just the athletes. It's not the team as a whole. We are in a space now where the athletes, and I think this is a bit of an overcorrection, where for so long, media was basically gatekeeping these things, the direct access to athletes from fans, right? Media almost had to be the go-between for you to your favorite team. Now, with the overwhelming presence of social media for these guys, for live streaming capabilities for these guys, for all the different things that they can now do on their own that they don't need HBO or ESPN or CBS or NBC to do, they can produce their own stuff and they can tell their stories however they want, which is not the way that it's always been. And some guys, rightfully so, felt that they were not covered fairly or that there were slights against them. These things happened. Of course, it would be ignorant to pretend like there weren't mistakes made on the part of media in certain situations. But now we've got an overcorrection where the athletes are just painting the picture however they want to. And I'm not into that. I'm not actually learning anything about those stories. Now, Cam is a different figure here in Netflix, in the Netflix and the quarterback thing. I'm sure Titans fans are going to be perfectly pleased just to see him on a standalone product, right? Because they don't get that very often. And it's Cam talking, and Titans fans are interested in what Cam has to say, even if Cam's not, he's just flatly not that interesting of a person by his own admission, right? He doesn't want to do anything but fish, play with his dog, talk to his parents and his teammates, and play football. That's the whole thing. That's the whole bit. He's a good trash talker. But beyond that, like, the person is not that interesting of a figure. Like, you could not put Cam Ward as a standalone television figure and have him carry a series unto himself. Now, the other players that he's featured in season 3 of Quarterback with are Baker Mayfield, who is, of course, compelling. Jaden Daniels, who is more compelling than Cam would be, right? Because he's a former NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. He is somebody who dug a proud and historically excellent franchise out of its grave to give them the first double-digit season that they've had in, quite some time. Certainly the most successful run that they've had in quite some time with the NFC Championship game appearance. And then Joe Flacco, who, again, has accomplished more than any of these guys in his career, is in a different version of his career, right? But he's a former Super Bowl MVP. It's him and Joe Montana in Super Bowl history and playoff football history with the most touchdowns without an interception in a playoff run. It's Joe Flacco and Joe Montana. And Joe Flacco's obviously had a different career trajectory. And maybe Joe Flacco, not the most dynamic personality either. He has become a bit of a media darling in his older age. Now that he doesn't care about what he's saying publicly, he can kind of just let it fly, and it has made him a little more compelling than he otherwise was. So if I said flatly, okay, not even to bother Titans fans, that Cam is the least interesting part of this season of quarterback, I would probably get some pushback there. And I would understand why that is. That's my personal feeling. It doesn't have to be yours. But if I let you pick 4 quarterbacks that you would want to watch on a series, I think Baker would definitely be on my list. I would probably not have any of the other 3 on my list. I know I would not have the other 3 on my list.
Who would do you have a preference? Like if they're, because I tried to do this exercise and
You struggled?
I did. Like, other than the team that I care the most about, who would I want to learn something about or hope that some kind of nuggets that created content came out? I would say Caleb Williams, I think Caleb would be polarizing enough that he would do or say something that would lead to some talk-aboutable action. And I would pick Jalen Hurts because I'm messy. And I want to know how messy that locker room is. And I want to know if there is a strain between him and coaches or other players, if he's treated differently. Other than that, like, other than just going out and picking the superstar quarterbacks to say, like, Lamar or Josh Allen, to name people that haven't been on the show, I would struggle with this.
Where is Lamar in that category? Is Lamar an interesting person, or is Lamar just a great quarterback?
I don't think he's that interesting.
Right. I think that, but you could say this of most athletes. Like, again, this is not like a slur.
You don't want them to be, like, eclectic.
Tom Brady is boring. Tom Brady is extremely boring.
As long as he's not kissing his son on the mouth.
Yeah. You know, or getting cheated on by his super famous supermodel wife with a jiu-jitsu.
I think it was judo.
Whatever it is. Whatever it is, he was putting the moves on Giselle. And that being one of the most interesting parts about Tom Brady is not a glowing endorsement of Tom Brady, again, as an entertaining figure. Tom Brady's job is not to be entertaining. Tom Brady's job is to go out there and do whatever it takes to win football games. Like, if you got to pick an NFL player's career, I would not want to be Tom Brady. To be Tom Brady sounds kind of terrible in terms of the things that you have to do and sacrifice and the way that you have to live your life in order to be that kind of excellent. I just take the one ring and be happy.
No nightshades. Can't have tomatoes anymore.
I like strawberries too much. I had strawberries with my breakfast today, okay? I like strawberries. I like normal tequila. I don't like avocado tequila or whatever it is that Brady's drinking. Now, admittedly, Brady will live to 150, and he'll be laughing at us all, and his hairline will be better than ours, and his teeth will be better than ours, and his forehead wrinkles will be better than ours, okay? Tom Brady is going to live forever. But I don't want to be Tom Brady because I want to have some fun with it too. And I don't know who like fits that category. Again, maybe it's enough for sports fans. It's a very, very like nitpicky thing that I'm doing with this.
Sure. But if I was going to be nitpicky about how I would want this changed in the future, I would want it to be about quarterbacks we know nothing about. Pick next year's quarterback class.
Well, because my initial reaction was, well, I'd want Jameis because Jameis is objectively entertaining. And you said, what?
I am about J-Mo'd out. There's this bad thing where they find out that someone is entertaining and is like, oh, you're funny? You're interesting? Like, okay, let's put you in front of people for everything. And you just get inundated with Jameis Winston. Oh, here's Jameis grocery shopping. Here's Jameis cutting his toenails. Like, okay.
It's a lot, right? When one of these networks figures out that they can get the laughs or get the clicks, when one situation, then Jameis is doing all of it, right? It's the Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee effect. If you see something happen in one particular area, you're just like, all right, let's put it everywhere.
We think you're funny. How do we get those people's money?
More.
But if they wanted to tweak it and make next year's quarterback all about the quarterbacks that are in the draft, they pick Arch Manning, Dante Moore, Brendan Sorsby. Bang. I'm in. I'm all in. Because I don't know anything about them as NFL pro. I know about them in college, obviously.
Right.
But they're growing. They're changing. That would be cool. But if you really wanted to get the nerd in me, you would put out the scout version of this. You follow one area scout. I don't think that you would get a general manager to do this in the offseason. Like, their time is already filled enough to have. So what I would want to do is have the area scout, have a pro scout, or have a national scout, and then have someone that is running it like a who is the old Senior Bowl?
Jim Nagy.
Go to whoever the new Jim Nagy is. Okay, what are they doing to put these? Or follow an agent. Okay, what does an agent do in the draft process, at the combine, before the draft? Like, that whole process, I would be all in. Because then it's not having to ride on the back of someone else's interest in a player or something. It would be your interest in an event, in a sport, in the process of drafting. I would be totally into that.
I think there's I know there's a market for that because I would argue that the second most popular thing to actual football itself is football offseason. Like, it's the second most popular sport as far as I'm concerned. People's interest in the draft, people's interest in the transactions. In any sport, people love transactions.
Yeah, when people talk about summer sports, you want to think, oh, NBA, World Cup. No. Free agency in the draft, baby. That's what I'm here for.
Somebody in the YouTube chat, where you can interact with the show, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, says Joe Burrow was in last season's edition of quarterback. So boring. So again, I think sometimes we confuse this between on the field excellence and is that person compelling. I do not think that the vast majority of professional athletes are actually that interesting. Now, you could say the vast majority of people are not actually that interesting. I'm not trying to, put the athletes in a bucket and say, all right, shut up and dribble. Like that's not the bit that I'm doing here, even though that probably sounds a little bit what I'm doing here. If you let me pick 4 of interesting stories, if the people themselves cannot be compelling, okay, then I want an interesting storyline here. Cam Ward, Joe Flacco, Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels has the most interesting storyline. If, by the way, only if, they are going to cover what the Commanders were before the thing changed. Are they going to cover the congressional subpoena that Dan Snyder received while he was hiding out on a super yacht in the south of France? Probably not.
Yeah, fat chance.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
they're not going to talk about Blue Jean Friday or any of that.
To understand why the Commanders were in such a hole, you have to talk about the reasons and the person that got them there, which of course looks bad on the league, which of course, is the process of digging into NFL ownership in ways that they don't find comfortable. So it's tough for me to even feign interest in the Jaden Daniels stuff if I know that I'm not going to get that. But I would pick, if Baker's off the table because Baker is in this season, if I made my own season a quarterback, I would pick Gardner Minshew because I feel like he is actually an interesting person. Not a good quarterback, not a bad quarterback, but not a good quarterback either. He's had a good career for his situation. But, it's a human being that feels like, maybe I shouldn't say depth to him, but he's got something to him, right? There's a compelling character there that would be interesting to follow around and who's had an unconventional career. I mean, he's been in the NFL for a decade.
Maybe not that long. Maybe a little shorter.
Let's see. How long has Gardner Minshew been in the NFL? This is his... Okay, not a decade. He was drafted in 2019. I'm being dramatic. But still, the better part of a decade.
You know who I'd pick? J.J. McCarthy. We've already seen him at practices, like rolling over on Kyler. Yeah, it's just like when you're in a class with another guy and you got to do a project together and you talk when you have to and you don't when you don't. I would just love to see him folding under the pressure of someone else taking his job.
Yeah, so my 4 would be Minshew. I would take Caleb Williams. I have not been overexposed as far as the Jameis stuff, and I just for the pure entertainment value, I don't think there's a more entertaining quarterback on or off the field than Jameis Winston. And then I would want Deshaun.
Oh, I didn't even think about Deshaun.
I would want Deshaun Watson.
Shador would be good too. I wouldn't even mind if they just did the whole.
Shador's entire life is a Netflix documentary. Right. Okay, like I didn't see. We're talking about overexposure. Shador, way too much Shador in my life. Watson, all I see him doing is TikTok dances on his girl's TikTok, and the entire giant sexual harassment, sexual abuse scandal that's looming over the worst contract in NFL history for a franchise that he cratered. I would want that. I would want more access to that story. I would want to see the uncomfortable parts of it. Of course, they would show me none of that. So 615-737-1045, the number. Somebody on YouTube says the most interesting and funny position groups are the offensive line and defensive line. I would agree with that more often than not. Following those guys would be way funnier and more compelling than 99% of the quarterbacks. Yeah, I disagree with you only in terms of the compelling part, right? We are there. We watch the sport for the quarterbacks. The offensive line is important. The defensive line is important. But we watch football for the quarterback. So to get you in the door, the quarterback and the name brand nature of these players is necessary. More entertaining? I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, some of the most entertaining figures I've ever covered are offensive linemen or defensive linemen. Jarrell Casey is a very charismatic individual. Taylor Lewan is a psychopath. There's all manner of different guys that have come through just the Titans locker room that I would cite that would be funny and interesting people. But quarterback, I don't know. It's just if I said that it's basically just the kind of stuff that they would post on their own Instagram feeds, and it's nothing of actual substance for me. Is that too harsh?
When's it come out?
I think next week. I'm probably not going to watch it. If there are things that I see or things that I need to see, I'm sure that they're going to be reaggregated on social media. Like, I don't think I need to watch this thing. And if somebody comes back and tells me, no, you're really missing out, and no, you should really give this thing a chance. Like, I'm not saying, I'm not watching it no matter what.
Right.
I'm not doing that. But if you guys tell me, okay, hey, there's something that we'd really like you to talk about within the context of last season that we saw on quarterback, can you go look at this and bring it up? Be happy to do that. I just don't like how much of Brian Callahan and the Titans being a disaster around Cam Ward last season is actually going to be in this. Like, stuff that I don't already know. I've seen all of the Cam Ward stuff that you could possibly imagine. I watched him go through all of that last season. I talked to all these people. I talked to Cam on a weekly basis, right? It's part of my job. So if they don't show me more than I already know, what's the purpose of me watching quarterback? 615-737-1045. You can jump in there if you want to. Let's talk about how Super Bowl rosters are built. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
A day at the spa, the perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, or any occasion. Lavish and luxurious, yet affordable. A grand gesture, yet simple for you. The gift card from A Moment's Peace. Give her the gift she won't buy herself. An escape, a bit of luxury. Something special that shows more than just words. A gift from A Moment's Peace Salon and Day Spa in Cool Springs across I-65 from Galleria Mall. Call 615-224-0770 or go online at amomentspeace.com anytime.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Do you have your bowling tickets yet? You need to get them.
Me? Are you making me buy a ticket to this?
No.
Well, that's nice of you.
Are you donating to charity? Since I'm not making you buy a ticket to this?
I will participate in the silent auction. Am I allowed to do that? I don't think legally I'm allowed to do that. We need to find the legal on that. It's kind of like working at Goodwill. You can't purchase things from Goodwill if you work at Goodwill.
Why don't you Venmo Home Street Home an amount of your choosing, and I won't make you buy a bowling ticket.
$39 headed your way, Stephen.
So we are raising money to support Home Street Home. It's an incredible cause that helps rehabilitate the unhoused community here in Middle Tennessee. We had torrential downpours yesterday. That is on the heels of just unbelievable heat that we are dealing with here in not just Middle Tennessee, but in the rest of the country. Stephen and his team are doing what they can to support those in need, those who are living out in the elements. It's not just the wintertime with coat drives that are important to help these folks out. It's everything that Stephen and his team do year-round to make sure that they are supported, that they are, treated with some level of humanity that many of them more often than not do not get as a product of whatever stereotypes that they've been subjected to. It's not all people whose lives have been wrecked because of addiction with drugs or alcohol. There are many, many different stories that will not just tug at your heartstrings, but make you feel a level of humanity that you have not previously felt about how people can get into these unfortunate conditions and what you can do to help them. So what we're doing to help them is having some fun. We're throwing a party, and we are inviting you guys to come out and hang out with us, with 3HL, with the Raw Room crew, with a lot of other friends of the show and other listeners to benefit Home Street Home. 1045thezone.com is where you go to get your bowling tickets. The event is next Thursday at Eastside Bowl. It's a really cool venue in East Nashville, a little closer to Madison. Really close to Lucas's place, as a matter of fact. Eastside Bowl, cool spot. We hope to see you out there next Thursday, 1045thezone.com to get your tickets today. You can get individual tickets. You can get a team of 3. You can get a team of 6 if you're so inclined. And all for the reasonable price, I believe, of $40 a piece. So we were talking about quarterback and the value of it. What's actually important? What isn't? Does it matter? Is it just filler to get you closer to your football season? Do you need it to have any kind of significance? And somebody whose opinion I respect and whose advice I more often than not heed texted me and said, you should watch it to have some context for what Cam is about and watch his surroundings, what his surroundings were like. There's stuff that you don't have access to that should be interesting, and some stuff that may piss you off that you didn't have access to because, maybe the team didn't want you to know about those things. I would be pleasantly surprised to find out if there was something that I didn't know about, that the team didn't want me to know about, or the team did not want the media to know about, that comes out in quarterback. I'm inclined to think that those things get the kibosh put on them when the final edits are made. But that would be, that would be me doing my job at a reasonable level, just learning more about the quarterback who I cover. So I think that's a reasonable argument for. The other comment before I get to the phones on this that was brought up is in the chat where somebody mentions, let me see if I can find this, from Kent. He said, let's flip this, Buck. If this were about Fernando Mendoza during last year's college football national championship run, would that interest you? It would interest me. Now, I think that interest would be more about the most improbable sports story in my lifetime than it would be about Fernando Mendoza himself. I would not be watching for Mendoza. I would be watching to learn anything I could about how the hell did you do this at a place where this isn't done. None of this is a thing. People have no idea that college football is a sport in Bloomington, Indiana, until the last 2 seasons. And even then, you had to kind of pull some teeth to get people to really believe that you were going to do this thing. So I would say Mendoza individually would not compel me to watch this thing. This thing will be a movie. Indiana's national championship will be a movie. You've never seen anything like this in your life. And I don't just say that because I'm an alumni.
And that's the part I was going to bring up, is that it would be rooted partially in fandom for you because you do care about that team. Kent brought up another good argument on this Titans fans, we don't ever get Hard Knocks or anything. Also Titans fans, I'm not going to watch this. Buck is not a Titans fan.
Yeah.
He's watching it objectively. I agree with Kent's argument for other Titans fans that may say, I'm not going to watch it. But you nor I are Titans fans. We're looking at it objectively. So if there are things we can learn objectively about it, I would have no problem in watching it or pulling the clips, playing them on the show, what have you. But as a fan, yeah, you should want to watch it. You're a fan of this guy. The same way that we said Lamar's not that interesting, but if Lamar was on quarterback, I would watch it because I'm a fan of him. I don't think it's derogatory to say that. Like,
no.
I'm not going to watch it because I'm not a fan of it. If there's something, you put it perfectly. If there is something to glean from it, the same thing from the Manning cast. Are the Manning cast bad? No, but I can learn everything I need.
I don't think the Manning cast is good.
They're not for us. They're for adjacent football fans.
No, I think objectively it's bad. I think we need to be able to get people microphones that work and that there's not a significant delay. I don't think it's good. I get why they do it.
Right.
I don't think it's good.
But we can learn everything we need to know about the Manning cast on social media because the clips will be recirculated. I feel the same way about this, but I'm open to being wrong. If there are things that don't get clipped that are worth learning, I will 100% go back and watch it to learn the context.
JC says, I'm a little behind, but Cam does have a big personality, probably one of the funnier players out there. Yeah, I mean, he's got more personality than most. Like, yes, he has more personality than Marcus Mariota. That's usually the standard operating line in the NFL, right? It's Tannehill was not. I thoroughly enjoy Ryan Tannehill. He's a perfectly nice person. Thoroughly enjoy Marcus Mariota. Thoroughly enjoy Cam Ward as a human being. I think that Cam is probably funnier than the two of them. He's more creative as far as his smack talk than the two of them. He smack talks. The other two really didn't, right? But if that's the bar, then yeah, you can find that on your average high school football field, flag football field. You can find that on your average, in my neighborhood, Elizabeth Park, playing basketball, right? You can find smack talk anywhere. Does that mean you're inherently interesting? Probably not. Curtis says that I'm a Raiders fan now. It is going to be super annoying when the Titans play out in Las Vegas, and I'm actively rooting for the Raiders.
You're not rooting for the Raiders.
I'm rooting for Mendoza. You're right. You're right. Who plays for the Raiders? Alan is in Dixon. Hey, Alan.
Hey, guys. Just want to say that I'm excited for this documentary series on Cameron Ward. My grandson, the one I called about his birthday, you wouldn't say tighten up to. He's actually with me, and he wanted me to just tell you he's excited to watch it as long as his daddy says that he can. And it just kind of scratches that itch until the actual season rolls on. So just want to say tighten up to you. And my grandson is a very big listener, like I said, back on his birthday. And just want to say that I'm excited for this season and for watching Cameron Ward and Carnell Tate.
Tighten the hell up. Thank you very much for the call, Alan. I appreciate it.
As soon as I heard that voice, I was like, I know him. I know that guy. Just give me a good old tighten up, Buck. Come on. Give me a...
Can I hear the edited one again? Can I hear the AI me? Tighten the hell up.
Well, it's not AI. It's like magazine ransom note.
No, it's way too clunky to be AI. Magazine ransom note is a great way to put that.
Right. I just cut letters from the New York Times and National Geographic.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so grateful to Alan and his grandson that listen to the show on a regular basis. So Robert has manufactured a fake me to wish you whatever it is that you wish one another. Tighten the hell up. Yeah.
Tighten up, Alan. And young Alan, whatever his name is.
Let's talk about this NIL village of Tennessee next.
If you're like me, this is right around the time where you start to think about your lunch break, best part of the day, right? And the answer is right in front of you. Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the new location in East Nashville, right on Gallatin Ave. It is open now. It has been for about a week. And guys, this is different from any other Hattie B's experience that you've had. Same great food, same great friendly people, that crispy, juicy hot chicken, scratch-made sides, banana pudding. Download the Hattie B's app. You can skip the line, order ahead. But when you walk into this place, you're going to see a gaming area behind the restaurant with cornhole and bocce. And then even behind that, a hangar event space with TVs, open air couches, pool, arcade games. And it is just a spot to sit and hang out and watch all the soccer this summer. Watch all the football this coming season. Enjoy a cold beer and some hot chicken. I promise you, you're going to find me there a lot over the next few months. HattieB.com or download the Hattie B's app today. Go to any one of their Middle Tennessee locations, but brand new and now open in East Nashville.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Best hot chicken in the world. Best hot chicken in the world, by the way, opens in 15 minutes in Middle Tennessee. All of their wonderful locations, including their new East Nashville location, which I was in Europe when you guys did the live show from the new Hattie B's in East Nashville. It looks like an amazing place.
So cool.
To have a cocktail, grab a beer, and watch a game, right? They've got a whole extra space now that's different from any of their other Nashville or Middle Tennessee locations. That's basically like a sports bar, but Hattie B's. We love to see it. So, on the subject of college sports, we haven't done a lot of Tennessee talk since Lucas has been in Brazil, but this is a story that caught my attention. So, this tweet comes from Dan Furman, who is basically just somebody who, on social media, catalogs and follows different kinds of NIL deals, transfers, contracts. He's somebody who exists in the financial space that catalogs, like I mentioned, different ways that teams and programs are approaching fundraising for their rosters for NIL. So he tweets, this was on the 7th, so 2 days ago. Tennessee is building a massive commercial real estate engine specifically designed to pay their players, dominate NIL, and buy a national championship. And he has a thread. UT is breaking ground on a massive $280 million entertainment district right next to Neyland Stadium, featuring a 440,000 square foot sports entertainment hub, a luxury hybrid condo hotel towering over the stadium, a rooftop bar with direct field views, and a 110,000 square foot of indoor-outdoor plaza space. Now, I knew that was something that was being done at Tennessee. I've seen the renderings of it. I'm sure we've talked about it on the show at some point in time. But he goes on to say, this isn't an upgrade. It's a massive revenue engine. Zero cost to UT because the developer finances and manages the $280 million build. Guaranteed rent, UT gets $1.5 million annually in base rent.
It's more than the Big 12 monster deal.
Think about that. The University of Tennessee, not the SEC, not men's basketball, not women's basketball, Tennessee football, in rent alone from a free add-on that they're getting for their stadium is going to make more money on a yearly basis than every Big 12 institution who has a monster patch on their jersey. So stupid.
For three sports.
Three sports. And not just on the jersey, but again, on the field and on the men's and women's basketball courts. Insane. Insane. Somebody show this to Brett Yormark. Be like, hey, can you renegotiate before you do this?
Hey, Brett, you missed your mark.
That's a pretty good joke.
Appreciate it.
Zero cost to UT that the developer finances the build. Guaranteed rent. I mentioned the $1.5 million annually in base rent. The revenue share, UT secures 3% to 5% of gross revenue from the hotel and the entertainment district. And the ownership option, UT can buy out the developer, can buy out the district itself in 40 years, if they so choose. To build the future, this is continuing this thread that Dan Furman has produced. To build the future, you have to tear down the past. UT is demolishing the iconic G10 garage this July.
Is that where we park at?
No. You mean like where we get the parking through the station? No. G10 is like directly next to the stadium.
Yeah, dude. This is where we park at. This is where, at least where me and Lucas have parked at before. I've tailgated in this.
Not the last time the three of us went to a game.
No. Correct. Not the last time we went to the game, but when I went to
I've been to G10. I've been to G10.
Oh, dude, I've been very swayy in G10. I'm
well versed with the illicit activities going on in the porta potties at G10. I can neither confirm nor deny.
Dang, I didn't know that. That's sad. But you got to go backwards to move forwards.
Which is what he's saying. The short-term pain, thousands of students, and this is what he's describing, thousands of students and elite tailgaters will be displaced for the upcoming season, so the 2026 season. The long-term win, the rebuilt garage will feature 215 more spaces, so more room, than the original structure, and structurally support the hotel that will be above the parking structure. While other SEC schools have on-campus hotels, none are physically integrated into the stadium experience like this one. This completely resets the bar for five-star recruiting, because if you're hosting five-star recruits at the hotel that's attached to the stadium, what better way to get them to experience Neyland Stadium than to be staying at Neyland Stadium? Imagine hosting recruits on a rooftop overlooking 100,000-plus fans, year-round monetization, turning a college town into a 365-day tourist destination. So now, even in the offseason, so say you don't get the opportunity to go to a Tennessee game and you still want to see Neyland Stadium because it's like an iconic stadium in American college football, and you just happen to be, on a road trip or something like that. You can stay at Neyland Stadium if you're passing through Knoxville, Tennessee, or if you just want to go and stay at Neyland Stadium. The bottom line, he adds, college athletic departments can no longer rely solely on ticket sales and television contracts. They have to think like commercial real estate developers to survive in the revenue-sharing era. So Danny White, Lucas has many times praised Danny White for his ability to fundraise in creative ways. This is another example of that. And I'd be curious to see how other universities find different ways to do something similar to what Tennessee is doing. I'm sure Vanderbilt is exploring the possibility of this, especially given the rate of growth that we are going through ahead of the Super Bowl for 2030. We have to get to a certain number of hotel rooms for the purposes of capacity to be able to host the NFL, to be able to host the Super Bowl. I'm sure Vanderbilt is exploring a similar possibility, especially with the renewed investment and renewed interest in Vanderbilt football. I'm certain any number of universities are going to try to explore this and other different ways to make it happen. People in the chat saying, all right, take my money, make it happen. Yeah, it's a really, really smart thing that Danny White and the University of Tennessee powers that be have figured out. They've laid the groundwork for this for several years, right? This is not just something that popped up overnight because some dude tweeted about it just now. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We'd be happy to have you. You can also interact with the show, as I mentioned, via the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Before we take some calls, a reminder that you can win a chance to be a part of Holiday World's Holidays in the Sky. It's a 500 drone show at Holiday World that they are running from June 20th through August the 3rd. If you want to win tickets to the drone show, it's a great time. Holiday World, always fun. Sign up for a chance to win today at 1045thezone.com/contests in scenic Santa Claus, Indiana, home of Jay Cutler. Jamie is in White House.
Hey, what about concerts? Like, what Morgan Wallen comes up there, they're going to get revenue from the concerts where they could, the stadium would definitely be visible for concerts?
Well, they would get revenue from people who choose to stay at the hotel attached to Neyland Stadium for a concert.
I mean, that's another big tourist attraction, too. You can come up there, like, for a major concert, not have to buy a ticket for the concert.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that will be factored in.
That's a great point.
Well, I'm sure that that will be accounted for. Be like, okay, you don't want to purchase tickets to be at the concert? Well, you can purchase our tickets and view the concert from the deck that they're talking about.
A rooftop bar, they'll probably wristband it, get some actual money out of it.
A VIP experience you can charge through the nose. Are you kidding me?
But you talked about UT will secure 3 to 5% of the gross revenue of the hotel and district, so that would be taken into it as well, of the tickets and the rooms.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. If any concerts, if any other events other than Tennessee football games, any event held at Neyland Stadium is now going to benefit, as if it wasn't already benefiting the University of Tennessee football program and athletic department, but it is going to further benefit. They have found ways to times it by 2 or 3 or however you want to do the math here, that they're going to find ways to squeeze additional revenue out of something that they were already making money on, which is the point. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. We can circle back to some college football stuff later on in the show. In the second hour, we are going to get into the AFC South breakout candidates. You'll hear a little bit from Greg Cosell on upcoming quarterback prospects to watch as well. I'm Buck Rising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
11 o'clock on the dot. Good morning, live from the Circus Sports at the Mint Kentucky Downs studio. I am Robert Walsh. Nashville Soccer Club news yesterday. Forward Sam Surridge was named to the 2026 MLS All-Star team for the second consecutive season. Nashville leads the MLS with 4 All-Stars that also include previously announced first 11 selections Hani Mukhtar, Andy Nahar, and Brian Schwacke. In Major League Baseball news, pitcher Justin Verlander announced on Wednesday that he will retire at the end of the 2026 season. The 43-year-old is playing in his 21st season in the MLB and has a long resume that includes 266 regular season wins, over 3,500 strikeouts, 3 Cy Young Awards, and 2 World Series championships to go along with an MVP. Today, the World Cup quarterfinals begin as France takes on Morocco at 3 p.m. on Fox. It's a rematch of the 2022 World Cup semifinal where France beat Morocco 2-0. France is looking for their 3rd consecutive World Cup semifinal appearance. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you gotta go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Second hour is upon us on this Thursday. Hope you are having a great start to your day so far. Let's talk about breakout candidates for the upcoming NFL season. Robert, I have conceded. I've laid down my sword. The U.S. men's national team is out. The Egyptian national team is out. Brazil is out. Do we have a single other World Cup? Italy was never in it. I don't know what you were Korean for a period of time?
I was going to be if my father was stationed there any longer.
Right. So you took up arms for the South Koreans.
They got dogged.
The South Koreans got dogged to the point where the president of their country commissioned a federal investigation into why the soccer team performed so poorly.
Yeah, Koreans usually react positively to things that go against them. Usually it's the North variety, but...
So we are now out of World Cup rooting interest because I'm not going to root for France. I'm not going to. I'm just not going. Now, the only reason why I would be compelled to root for France is because that horribly racist Paraguayan senator the other day, who we were talking. I shouldn't laugh about it. It was horrendous what she did. She retracted her horribly racist statements, by the way. And
no, all is forgiven.
No.
You took it back.
Robert, no, it was a 4-page retraction in which she still condemned his behavior and demanded an apology from him.
Oh, my God. That is the definition of putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Like, you can't come back from that. You literally said he didn't drink mother's milk. He drank coconut milk. Yep. Like, you are a racist piece of trash. You can't come back from that.
She said, you don't understand. That's how we grew up. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later, Grandpa. Appreciate it. Like, I've heard it before. I grew up in the South. I get it. Like,
I'm sure we've all gone through this with a family member or, a friend who you look back at their behavior in high school and like, oh, that was pretty bad.
I'm more willing to forgive people in high school. Your brain's still developing. You're surrounded by your parents. Like, you don't really know everything like there is to know. You still don't. But, like, it's when it gets into the older and you don't realize, you don't go out there and meet different types of people, different communities of people, and then see, there may be a little error in this. Like, if you make a mistake when you're young, you're young. I get it. Your brain's still growing. You're not the smartest cat or the sharpest tool in the shed.
I've never liked when this happens to, like, say you win the national championship in basketball and somebody goes back and finds Dante DiVincenzo's tweets from 2006.
Mitch Trubisky tweeting, I love boobs, or something like that.
Boobies.
Oh, no, that was Josh Allen, I think. Wasn't Josh Allen boobies?
Either way.
You big dumb idiot. I'm glad I didn't have Twitter. Then.
Oh, I did. Unfortunately, I did. We were using Twitter, not understanding fully the scope of, no, this is a public forum that you're sending these messages about your AP English teacher.
Woof.
To one another about, had to do away with that. But anyway, AFC South. So my point with this is we have no more World Cup vested interest. Now, I'm willing to root for Mbappe, even if I'm not willing to root for the French. I'm maybe I can gin up a little bit of an interest in Morocco because I watched Casablanca for the first time, and it's just a banger. Just an electric movie. Here's looking at you, kid. So good.
Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe not this week. Maybe not this week. Maybe next month. Maybe a year from now.
Humphrey Bogart, a god.
Dude, he had to just be, every time you walked in, he had to have bodyguards with sticks to keep the women off of him.
Rolling in it. So, anyway, I'll root for Morocco because of Casablanca, because I watched it on a plane back from Spain a couple of weeks ago. Such a good movie.
Have you looked at the AFC South contenders? Okay. I was going to make you guess the Titans because I feel like there's a couple that you could go with on here.
Okay. Well, I have seen the Titans. So this is a piece. Should I text Solak? Should we have Solak on the phone instead of just reading all of his internet stuff?
You never have to ask me that. Okay. I think he is one of the
Keep talking,
smart.
I'll text him now.
I think he is one of the smarter, better put together. Like we talked about his the hottest takes for the 2026 season. Like I didn't agree with all of them, but he does a really good job of explaining things in layman's terms. Like as much as I love football and you may think that, he's really well versed in it, I'm still a moron. I'm still not that smart. So he's able to say these things articulately in a smart way that is still digestible for a big dum-dum like me. You never have to ask me, should we have Ben Solak on? Also, he loves Pokemon. Like we missed an opportunity last year to ask him NFL draft prospects as Pokemon.
Okay, well, I just texted him, are you bored enough to do some off-season radio next week?
Tell him you'll cover his flight to Nashville.
What?
I need somebody to trade with. I know he plays Pokemon. I need somebody to trade with. Hey, Ben, what you doing, man? You want a Kadabra?
I just look over at the Zoom. Robert's having a whole other conversation with Solak in the YouTube chat. He's asking Cosell what packs he's ripped lately.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So, Solak, in the absence of joining us, and perhaps he will next week, depending on his schedule, has a piece up on ESPN.com picking breakout candidates for all 32 NFL teams. Now, I have seen the breakout selection for the Titans, but I have some follow-up questions around it. So the breakout selection, Robert, is whom?
For the Titans, it is tight end Gunnar Helm.
Okay. So how the hell can Gunnar Helm have a breakout season if the quarterback isn't having a better season? Can a skill player break out without the quarterback breaking out? Because Cam Ward has arrived in the NFL, but he has done precious little beyond that. And I'm not saying that as a means to rib Cam Ward or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, Cam Ward hasn't had a breakout season yet. So can I have a skill player on that offense with a breakout season and in good conscience pick that player to have a breakout season and not pick the quarterback to also have a breakout season? Because that would indicate that Cam has done something well.
I'll push back just a little bit because I think that his impact on the offense can happen without the ball in his hands. If you'll remember last year's training camp, they had a tight end room. They had a ton of just dudes. Chig, obviously not the best run blocker, but Gunnar Helm was far and away the most impressive blocker.
In fact, Chig, one of the categorically worst run blockers. You're very kind to say Chig, not a good run blocker. I was funny. I was talking to Chig when he signed with the Commanders, and he just shot him a quick message like, hey, appreciated how easy you were to work with during your time here. No, it wasn't always easy during the time that you were here. Right, because it was a hell of a lot easier for Delaney Walker in the last couple of years than it was for Chickakankwa. Although Delaney had his own struggles here, or was on teams that struggled, and he sent me back a message to the effect of, "Yeah, we're good. You weren't one of those guys that didn't use this word, but pooped on me." And my abilities on the way out the door. I was like, I wasn't exactly kind to you, Chig. I called you a box score stuffer on a regular basis. But, you can have that respectful dialogue. Either way, Chig was not a good, and in fact, objectively, a bad run blocker.
But Gunnar was not. Gunnar was fairly adequate in his rookie year. And Select notes that he is a QB-friendly third option in the passing game who can move the needle as a blocker if his technique improves to match the physical toolkit. With the situation your tackles are in right now, having an inline guy who can actually block and block at an average to above average level is a huge help. I mean, that's going to make a big difference when you're playing someone that has a premier pass rusher and you need someone who can chip, or you need someone who can stick in and be technically a sixth offensive lineman. So I think he can impact the offense that way without the ball in his hands. But I don't think he necessarily has to have create a breakout year for Cam to be good. Look at all of the I wouldn't say mediocre. I would say overshadowed tight end seasons. Think back to Gary Barnage with the Browns.
Yeah.
Great season.
Good pull.
The quarterback wasn't really doing anything. I don't think that those things have to be a one-to-one match.
So, let's just read you the blurb here. Big Gunnar Helm guy here, he writes. He has the tools of an NFL starter, length, size, speed, ball skills above the rim, slash away from his frame, and toughness through contact. If he's an A+ in any one trait, it's his ability to track and adjust to the football. He makes the sort of tough downfield catches a tight end needs to make in order to become an explosive play receiver. Helm won't lead the Titans in receptions, given their offseason investments in Wan'Dale Robinson and Carnell Tate. But he is a quarterback-friendly third option in the passing game who can move the needle as a blocker if his technique improves to match the physical toolkit. The light bulb was starting to go on last season, and as more eyes turn to Tennessee this season, I think he'll have national recognition by this time next year. So he also had a foot injury at the very end of the year that bogged him down. I
totally forgot about that.
I didn't, just because he was one of the few players that I could still recognize out on the field, and I was like, oh my God, not you too. I think it was the Niners game. He either missed the Niners game or got hurt in the Niners game. I know him and Cedric Gray both had injuries in there after they were having, they were one of the few things that was worth watching by the end, with all due respect. If Gunnar Helm is the breakout candidate and everybody else has an average season, okay, you take that. Because, it just depends on what do you expect. What do you think your football team should be next year? And I'd be curious to know where we sit. So we're what? We're less than 20 days away from the first training camp practice. Training camp rookies, by the way, report on the 23rd. Vets, everybody else reports on the 27th, and I believe the first practice is the 28th, if I remember the schedule in my head correctly. Coaches are back in the building. Less than a month away from training camp itself. How do you feel? What are your expectations for your football team? 615-737-1045. I want to know where your head's at versus me sitting here in my own echo chamber thinking about what the Titans should be based on what I know about them, who they've brought in, understanding that there are a considerable amount of unknowns, a considerable amount of variables that I don't know how to account for just yet, but I think I have a good idea. Most of these are known commodities in their previous spots, everything from the coaching staff to the players that they brought in, beyond Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill, Carnell Tate, and the variants that may come with rookies who will have to play for the most part. I mean, those top three guys are going to play a considerable amount of football out the gate. They just have to. And should. Falk is probably the one who's got the most buffer around him, given that they have, 9 new defensive linemen that they brought in. My expectation, my worldview going into this season is just be league average. Show me that you are capable of competing at a league average level, because that was the thing, Robert, that they got to at the end of the season, where I was looking around in San Francisco or after they beat Cleveland or, even the game against Seattle where they lost at home, but they played a reasonably decent football game. Just looking around and saying, okay, you are now starting to at least compete. Whereas the first 2/3 of the season, you just getting your heads caved in at every turn. You're losing by double digits all over the place. You are a non-professional, you are a junior varsity football team in the pros. You do not belong at this level for the first 2/3 of that NFL season. And so by the time we got to the end of the season, and they won, 2 of their last 5 games, and you said, okay, well, that's the way that I expected you to look, but from the start, you should have looked this way in September. And because you were so disorganized and disjointed at every other level, and your coaching staff was a liability, or your head coach was a liability, maybe not the entire coaching staff, but certainly the person who's running the show was, in fact, hurting you more than he was actively helping you. This is why it took so long for them to look about the way that I expected them to look, but it was by the end of the season. So if I say, okay, look league average for the better part of a year, and if you still finish with a losing record, if you win 6 games, that's still, I think they're projected over under 6.5 right now. If they went under 6.5, that's still an improvement. That's still double their win total from the past 2 seasons. It would match their win total from the past 2 seasons. If they're playing more competitive, if they win back-to-back games for the first time since 2022, they still haven't done that. They're riding like a 400-day streak of not winning a game at home last season. If you start to look like a league average football team, that to me is an improvement. That's where you should be. That to me would be the baseline. Come in, if you're Robert Saleh, set the baseline of league average competitive football team. Then in 2027, show me what you got.
Okay, give me your answer for this then. We'll wrap the bow on the Gunnar Helm conversation with this. League average. I'm glad you used that phrase. League average for tight ends last year. If you took the average of all starting tight ends, the average is about 52 receptions, 535 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns. But it is heavily skewed because obviously the elite tight ends bring that up. If you take the elite tight ends out of that, the average breaks out to about 45 catches and 450 yards. If you look at what Gunnar Helm did last year, 44 catches, 357 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was really close to what league average is as a tight end his rookie year. So I think the expectation for Gunnar Helm going into year 2 is that he would be above average. He would be closer to the average we noted earlier in it with the elite tight ends in it. I would expect him to be somewhere around 50 catches, 500 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns. I think that's a fair expectation for him in year 2.
Completely fair. And I would say this to kind of go along with with Solak's analysis here. Solak is essentially considering him the 3rd best receiving option on the football team. That's not the way that we're talking about it because we tend to get locked into positions, right? So Calvin Ridley, in theory, should be the 3rd best or one of the 3 best wide receivers on the football team. But if you take out Calvin and the variance that comes with Calvin and you add in Gunnar Helm and say, okay, let's hold the line here, your wide receiving options, your pass catching options, and throw Tajay in there too, because he's an adept skill player when he's available. Tony, honestly, is too, when you're not just grinding him into dust behind a terrible offensive line the way that they have the last couple of years. The best version of Tony Pollard is in Dallas as a complementary player to Zeke. Zeke is the grinded out player. Tony comes in and is just an electric playmaker. We haven't gotten to see that version of Tony Pollard within this offense because of just the way that these games have played out, and they have just needed to lean on Tony in ways that have been super inefficient and frankly not fair to Pollard. So if you make Helm the 3rd best receiving option on the team, doesn't that make you feel better about the idea of Calvin Ridley, Alec Ayaman, Chimere DK as supplementary options if your top 3 actually includes the tight end, the 4th round tight end? If he should be the best of the 3 pass catchers from that 4th round. He should be the best offensive player from that year's draft.
This year, I would agree with you.
Yeah, outside of Cam, right? If I remove Cam from the conversation, I say the 3 skill players you took in the 4th round, that should be the best pass catcher of the 3.
I think there's a world we could live in where Chim takes the Z spot from Calvin in 2027, and you could make an argument for him, but I will agree with you for this year. Gunnar should probably be the most consistent. And someone in the chat brought up the obstacle that Bellinger presents. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how they are deployed, but I don't think they are similar players. I think that they both do different things well. So it will probably be role-specific opportunities for both of them.
Bellinger is more your inline guy. Helm is more your split Y. 615-737-1045, the number. If you want to talk Titans at any point, we are going to talk draftable prospects, draftable quarterback prospects with Greg Cosell ahead of a crazy college football season coming up next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Greg Cosell of NFL Films has been kind enough to lend us his time and talents twice this week. Yesterday, to make up for last week, because we had no podcast, just the timing of the taping with when we were off for the July 4th holiday didn't work out. So Greg said, all right, we'll jump on the radio show on Tuesday and we'll tape a podcast on Wednesday. So you heard yesterday some of Greg's analysis of non-quarterback prospects, did a lot of receivers and running backs in the upcoming college football season. That's how Greg spends his time in the offseason. When he's not watching film for work, he's watching film for fun. So gets his pre-draft study going in the summer ahead of the college football season, then goes back and takes the full college football season into account. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are going to be available that could be available in this upcoming draft class, and a lot of different ways that this could go in a very fun upcoming college football season. So we talked about some of those quarterback prospects on the most recent episode of The Install with Greg Cosell. Welcome into The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. Greg spends his time watching film, and when he's not watching film, he's watching more film. So we're going to talk about some quarterback prospects that he's been keeping an eye on. If you missed the radio show today, we did non-quarterbacks on the offensive side of the ball earlier on Wednesday. Greg, looking forward to this conversation. A lot of fun quarterbacks in this class. We don't know how many of them are going to end up declaring for the draft, but there are quite a few names on this list that I'm sure you've enjoyed watching.
Yeah, I've seen most of them. And, I think it's important to remember that they all have at least one more year to play in college, and that they're at this point, you look at their traits, but their works in progress. And I think that's important. Obviously, at this time of year, everybody has fun with mock drafts and making these final evaluations. And I think you have to be really careful about that because, a lot of ththese guys are 20, maybe 21 at most. And as I said, they could have 1 year left in college. They could have 2 years left in college. You just don't know. So the way I approach it is I just try to look at their traits. I don't sit around deciding, well, how many quarterbacks are going to go in the first round. You have no idea about that whatsoever at this point.
And so when you started, and obviously this is an ongoing thing, Greg, when you're not under pressure to watch this film, it allows you to do it at a more leisurely pace. So, Greg, of the quarterbacks that you've watched so far, whose traits have stood out on film of the players that we think are going to be draftable prospects in the upcoming year?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys for different reasons. And for the most part, I also try to think of it in terms of how they would have to be deployed in the context of an offense at the next level, because there's very few transcendent players, Buck, where you just go, wow, that guy can do anything, and you put him in any offense, and man, that guy's a star. So, I don't necessarily think like that. I think about, okay, how can they perform at the next level? Like, let's start with someone, just because his name is certainly out there. And if he had come out this year, people felt that he might have been the second quarterback chosen and maybe even a top 2 or 3 pick. So let's start with Dante Moore. So Dante Moore is probably not quite as big as you would ideally like, although that probably won't be held against him. I would say that he's a refined pocket quarterback. I would say that he's very clean in his drop and his mechanics. I think he has a good sense of timing and rhythm. I thought he had a good understanding of route concepts versus coverage. He was, for the most part, precise with his ball location. What Dante Moore is he's an executor and distributor. That's what he is as a quarterback. He's not a playmaker. He's not immobile, but if he's to become a really good NFL quarterback, let's say he's a first or second pick in a draft, at that point, you don't want him just to become really good. You want him to become one of those guys. If he's to become that guy, he's going to need a team around him. He's not going to be able to do it by himself. We're not going to be seeing Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes style plays out of Dante Moore. You're going to see a pocket quarterback who is incredibly efficient at the highest level playing from the pocket.
It's always an interesting conversation about the decisions that go into it for these guys as to whether they're going to declare or not if they have eligibility left. And I was curious about his decision, given that we didn't necessarily have a star-studded lineup of quarterback prospects to choose from this year. It was really
right.
Mendoza at the top of the list. Whatever goes into those things, we obviously can't get inside the young man's head other than what he says publicly. But do you think he could still benefit from playing more in the college game as opposed to potentially where he could have come out last year?
Well, I think it always helps to play football. I mean, especially at that position. I mean, some positions maybe not, running backs maybe not because it's just wear and tear. But for a quarterback, just to take more drops and sets and throws and just to continue to see things more and more, I don't think that hurts him at all. But I think the important point to make is stylistically, he's not going to change. He's not all of a sudden going to become a playmaking quarterback. So what he has to be, as I said, he has to be incredibly quick with his processing. We've talked about this. It's a game of milliseconds. He's got to be really precise in that regard. His ball placement has to be really precise. He just has to be a really high level pocket player. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. There's not 20 Josh Allens and Patrick Mahomes or
Right.
Lamar Jacksons. So there's nothing wrong with that, but he just has to be that at a really high level because he's not physically imposing. His arm is good, but it's not gun. So his pure physical traits would not be viewed as really high level. So now it's the mental part of the game and just doing the right things all the time. That's the kind of quarterback that he has to be.
One player that I'm looking forward to seeing more of in 2026 is C.J. Carr. The offense ran through Jeremiah Love for understandable reasons, but C.J. Carr was playing at a very high level within that offense. Now, you could say, I'm sure, that it's easy to play a high-level quarterback in an offense where Jeremiah Love is so spectacular, but he has a lot I'm sure, of those traits that you're looking for at the next level, Greg, when you watch him on tape, understanding how his offense was constructed last year.
Yeah, you're talking about C.J. Carr from Notre Dame, right?
Correct.
Yeah. He's a player. Now, for instance, you can make an argument that stylistically, he and Dante Moore are similar. I liked Carr's tape better than I liked Dante Moore's tape from this past year. And again, I don't want people to think that means that Carr's going to be drafted higher. We don't know any of that. But again, you're dealing with a guy. To me, what his tape showed was a natural pocket quarterback. I thought he was a very strong mental processor. I thought he had a really refined, detailed sense of the pre-snap and post-snap phase of the position, which is really, really important at the next level. To me, I thought he showed an understanding of defensive fronts and coverages. I thought there were times on the tape where it was evident to me anyway, maybe I'm wrong, but where it was evident that he adjusted protections because he moved backs and tight ends into position to account for pressure. He's a pocket player for the most part. Again, another guy that's not immobile, but he's going to have to be a high-level pocket player in the NFL. I thought he played with poise, composure, really nuanced feel for the timing and rhythm and the position. One thing I always look at with quarterbacks that are pocket quarterbacks, Buck, is do they get stuck in the pocket where it feels like they have nowhere to go? And more often than not 100% of the time, but more often than not, that means they're not really seeing it at the speed that's required because there's almost always somewhere to go. He rarely ever got stuck in the pocket. So I thought that he really had a feel for the structure of the route concepts. Now, again, the one thing you didn't see in their offense, and again, it just might be the way they play at Notre Dame, you didn't really see a lot of throws on the move. He obviously is not truly an outside of structure player, so he's a pocket quarterback. But I thought he did that. I thought his 2024 tape, he did that at a higher level than Dante Moore did on his 2024 tape.
Again, none of these determinations are final. All of these players still have at least one more college football season to play. Greg, I wonder what your initial study of Arch Manning was like, understanding what his season started out as and how he ended up finishing very strong for that Texas team.
Yeah, he's a work in progress. I think that there's improvement that's demanded in significant areas. He's got a tendency to lock his front leg when delivering the ball, and that negatively impacts both his velocity and his ball location. And that becomes a big time factor when the pockets get a little squeezed. Sometimes that can be fixed. Sometimes it can't be fixed. he clearly showed strong flashes of quality quarterback play, including really calculated and efficient pocket movement. Don't forget, he's 6'4", 220. That is a trait, and a really positive trait. And there's no question there's a dynamic movement dimension to his game. And that's something that, obviously we see more and more of in the league. But there was always a contrast to me watching his tape. And boy, I probably overdid it with him, Buck, because I know that he's talked about a lot. So I watched a lot of games. But I thought there was a contrast between his pocket comfort and toughness in the face of pressure, but yet at times a tendency to perceive pressure and break down and get out of the pocket when you didn't need to. And that's always, for guys that are athletic and mobile and can move, there's always a little tension between those two things, because in the NFL, you got to stand there and work in squeeze pockets. To use the phrase that I heard from a coach, which I love, is, you've got to be able to play in a tight cockpit. When there's bodies around you, you've got to be able to stand and deliver. And occasionally he did that, and other times he got out of there way too fast.
There's going to be any number of names that are mentioned throughout the course of this process, offseason into the college football season, Greg. Lenora Sellers, I think, got a lot of attention because of athletic gifts as opposed to necessarily traits that you would like to see at the next level. He at South Carolina will be a work in progress of a different kind. The other two players who I hear a lot of mention of in the early onset is Darian Mensah, who's transferring from Duke to Miami, and Drew Mestemaker, who is at Oklahoma State. And I wonder if you had thoughts on either of those two players, or if you've gotten to them.
I really liked Mensah's tape a lot.
Okay.
I thought there was a really desirable combination of playing efficiently from the pocket with timing and anticipation. I thought he saw the field very, very well. I thought that he really made precise ball location throws, and he also has the natural athleticism and mobility to make plays with his legs outside of structure, both throwing and running. He's got a dual threat game, but he's not a guy that abandons the pocket. He stays in the pocket. He just happens to be very mobile and can make plays outside the pocket. He's really tough in the pocket. He'll stand and deliver. He allows routes to develop. He showed a really good mix of being aggressive when demanded and being game aware when it wasn't there, maybe throwing the ball away, when there was no clean throw, he didn't force it. I thought he was a very efficient player who, as I said, does have that dual threat ability. So he's a player that I'm very anxious to see at Miami this year. We know Miami always has players. I really like Darian Mensah's tape from 2024. Excuse me, 2025.
To pay attention to recruiting and transfer portal stuff, Miami is loading up to try and get back into the title game for sure. They're recruiting as well as anybody in the country right now. So we'll see what Mario Cristobal has up his sleeve.
And then you mentioned Mestemaker, who obviously is transferred from North Texas, and he'll be at Oklahoma State, following his head coach. I think he was just a great example. Don't forget, this guy never played quarterback in high school. I mean, he couldn't beat out whoever was there. So he was not a quarterback in high school. He was a safety and a punter. So you watched his tape. And again, I watched him throughout the season. I like to do that. I go in order of the season. So you saw it was a strong example, Buck, of an inexperienced quarterback getting better as the season progressed. He's got some fundamental issues that need to be cleaned up. Ball staging, that means where you hold the ball. He tended to hold the ball way too low. Footwork, his base was too wide. He kind of pushed through his delivery at times. He didn't see things real well from the pocket, but he's got arm strength. He's got aggressiveness as a passer, which clearly improved as the season progressed, although he did really struggle in his final two games versus Tulane and San Diego State. But he looked like a better quarterback as the season progressed, and that's a positive as you think about him playing this year. Now, he's a quarterback that does not have to come out, Buck. I mean, he goes to Oklahoma State. That offense with the head coach, first of all, he put up huge numbers last year. You got to figure he'll put up huge numbers this year. But there's still a lot that has to be worked on. So he is a major work in progress right now. With a lot of college quarterbacks, you have to put the numbers aside because so many of these teams, particularly the big schools, like we know Dante Moore is going to put up numbers. We know Julian Sagan's going to put up numbers. That doesn't automatically mean that they're unbelievable pro prospects. These they're playing with 5 stars. The teams are great. We know they're going to be top 10 teams. So you have to push aside the numbers.
No, it's the balance that NFL teams are trying to strike, right? What do you look at college production, which obviously matters in
Right.
some form or fashion,
Yes.
versus the traits that you're talking about and how they would translate to the next level, and the offenses that they're playing in or what they're being asked to do versus what you're going to ask them to do when they get into a mini camp and ultimately training camp and on the field in the NFL. Turns out quarterback
So
evaluation.
that's a portion of yesterday's taping of The Install with Greg Cosell, the podcast available wherever you get your podcasts, also on 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel, where you can subscribe and you can not only get the install, you can get Football and Other F Words, you can get all of our radio shows that are live streamed on a daily basis and any other original content that's being produced. There's going to be a lot of it with Titans training camp ahead, Vols fall camp ahead, so we're going to be producing a lot of different stuff there visually for you. Make sure you subscribe. Are we at 20,000 subscribers yet?
No, we're still below. I think
Okay.
we're at 19.6.
What did we say we were going to do if we hit 20,000 subscribers? Put you on a unicycle or something like that? Isn't that a thing?
I don't remember anything like that.
I think I'd like to do that.
Look into what it takes to ride a unicycle. Are you aware of the largest skill set necessary?
No.
Core strength. Yeah, I'm not getting on a unicycle.
I want to talk about what Greg said there regarding college quarterbacks, production versus traits, coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster, and I'm with Aaron from United Structure Systems. Man, they came by today to check out my house. If there's anything, any issues, small or big, you're going to fill us in there.
We can take care of it no matter what kind of problems. So first off, we'll just kind of take a look through your house and see what kind of issues you got going. Cracks in the brick, cracks in the drywall, weird spots in the floor, doors sticking, windows not opening properly. Once we identify those areas, we're going to do a thorough inspection around the outside, make sure there's no issues going on with that. And then once we look over it, we'll talk about what's going on, and hopefully we ain't got no issues, and then we'll go from there.
Let's go. Let's go.
Mr. Foster, so we have looked at the issues that you brought up. We had the drywall in the attic up here above your bonus or your garage. You had some doors sticking.
I did.
Going in your bathroom. So we've inspected all that. We don't see any major structural concerns. So you're going to be one of our lucky good news customers today. There is some minor deflection there. That's not an uncommon thing. As any house is built, it's its biggest and its strongest the day that it's born. Right? And from that point, it just gets older, just like us. We ain't hopping up out of bed, taking off down the hallway, running those stairs anymore.
Not protecting quarterbacks anymore.
No.
Opening up late. We're done.
Your guard ain't there no more.
Okay,
so.
I got you.
So it just happens. It gets a little older and it starts to deflect. Now, there are some things we can do to kind of help adjust those doors, mainly adjusting in the door, which we don't necessarily do, and maybe doing some light shimming in the crawl space down there to address those sticking doors. But for now, no major issues there. We did talk about the grading in the back and some issues that we can take care of back there for you. But that's pretty much up in a nutshell. No big issues and you're good to go. So.
Awesome. So again, what you deal with United Structural Systems is it's upfront, it's honest, and now I can sleep peacefully at night, okay?
The guaranteed offer is the simplest, least stressful way to sell your home. You go to our website, you fill out a quick form, we set an appointment, we bring you an all-cash offer. Literally, there's no lockbox on the front of your house, there's no showings, we pay all cash, we close in as little as 21 days, stress-free. We've helped thousands of homeowners just like you sell your home the hassle-free way with a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate.
Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. Lunchtime. What are you thinking about if not thinking about Hattie B's? Stoney Keeley is saying he will take a flip bump through a table.
Ooh.
If the Zone YouTube channel gets to 20,000. Is he the only kind of bump I recognize are cocaine?
Yes, well, it is not that.
No?
It's a pro wrestling term. So
we wouldn't see Stoney do a flip and then take a bump.
You would see him do a front flip onto his back is what a flip bump is.
Okay.
So a front bump is where you land on your face. A back bump is where you land on your back. And a flip bump is where you flip and land on your back.
So we'd live stream him flipping through a table.
Yes. Yes.
We can't live stream him doing a bump of cocaine.
No, we would not. We wouldn't do that. And neither would Stoney. Stoney is not a man of those proclivities. He's not somebody that deals in those dark arts.
Bolo tie.
Don't do that to him. He likes candles. He writes reviews on candles, not Colombian Bam Bam. Do not do that.
It's the fragrance. It's one of his candles.
I didn't like doing it. I just liked the way it smelled.
Robert, what's a project quarterback?
Ooh, that's fun. Someone who does not possess the necessary skills currently to start NFL games.
Okay.
Or no, I wouldn't even say to start NFL games. I would say to win. How would I phrase this? Doesn't possess the necessary skills to be competitive in an NFL game.
Okay. The way that I would define it is a quarterback that has at least one elite physical trait. So whether that's his size, whether that's his speed, whether that's his power, one elite physical trait, but lacks the skill or necessarily the production that would indicate that they should be an NFL quarterback. That to me is a project quarterback. Some kind of elite trait that doesn't have the requisite skill. Anthony Richardson will always be the definition of a project quarterback to me. He was not a highly productive player in college. There was no question that his skill set, or rather his traits, were elite. His athleticism is elite. Now, that does not necessarily translate into quarterbacking, as we have seen so far. Anthony Richardson, for now, is still a member of the Colts roster. Anthony Richardson is a bust as the 4th overall pick. It'd be tough to not call him a bust.
As it sits currently, yes. But he can unbust.
Sam Darnold.
Bingo.
The version of this for the Titans was Malik Willis. Malik was not Anthony Richardson athletic, but he was closer to that than anybody the Titans have had since Mariota. I don't know who you would consider. I would probably consider Marcus the better athlete between the two of them. You could probably nitpick that if you wanted to. Marcus is one of the most athletic players in college I've ever seen. I mean, he's not Cam Newton or anything like that. But as far as what he was able to accomplish at Oregon, he's one of the most athletic players I've ever seen on a football field. Here, he tried it at the NFL level. His body did not hold up. Cam Ward is not a project quarterback. Cam Ward does not have, to me, a definable elite trait, but he is also somebody who's played a lot of football, who has played the quarterback position at a number of different levels, and has been a highly successful and productive college quarterback. Cam Ward, to me, is not a project quarterback. When you are talking about NFL talent evaluation, when you're talking about quarterback evaluation, I don't know whether we have seen, whether it will be something that's always factored in. Like, if you have an Anthony Richardson, do you take him every time? Not. Let's not say the personality, because there's some stuff there, right? Him pulling himself off the field on 3rd down, him having an interest in a music career beyond playing quarterback, him asking for a trade, all these different things. If you see the player with the profile, the athletic profile of Anthony Richardson, do you take him every time?
I hate this answer, but I think it really depends on the situation.
That's okay.
But, God, I think, and this is maybe a better way to answer this, I think that most of the teams that would be picking in the top 10 and have an opportunity to draft a player like that are not built or constructed in their current form to house someone like that. What was the biggest block on him is that he had a limited number of college games.
13 college starts.
He needed to play games, and they kind of went out and did that in the first year, and then the second year it was on and off again. I believe his sophomore year was when he pulled himself from the game. He took himself out of the opportunity to play some more
on third down,
which really soured, I think, a lot of people's opinions of him. But he needed to play. The Colts weren't really ready to house a rookie quarterback who didn't really know the ropes as well as someone else who they could have potentially started.
None of these things have to be done in a vacuum. None of these things have to be done in extremes. But I'm always curious to see where the trends are, if there are trends. If there is one prospect, and I'm not saying there's a prospect like Anthony Richardson every year. He's obviously the most athletic. He's the most athletic quarterback in the history of combine testing. Okay, so let's not make this like he's just, not to denigrate Malik, but Malik is closer to a player that you might be able to find in the third round than a guy like Anthony Richardson, who you've really never seen before. If you want to say Josh Allen, he's more athletic than Josh Allen. Doesn't make him a better quarterback than Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is one of the examples that's cited as why teams take those risks at any point. Lucas and I have had this conversation many times. Lucas has just kind of deferred to, well, why don't you just take the guy that was productive in college? Why wouldn't you just take the highly productive college quarterback? And what Greg's analysis was, a part of the analysis was, and again, you can listen to the full version on the podcast, Greg was saying you almost have to throw out the numbers. Throw out the counting stats when you're talking about college quarterbacks. And I think that's a hard thing to wrap your head around. You just completely disregard the statistics. And I'm not saying Greg may be speaking just for himself. I don't think Greg is necessarily speaking for the way that talent evaluators in the league do it. Greg has obviously been doing it for an extended period of time. I don't know what his favorite position or his what he thinks his best position is that he evaluates. I know he thinks offensive line he is worst at evaluating offensive line because he feels that is a position that you almost have to have played to understand the full scope of what they're asking those guys to do on a technical standpoint. Though Greg does go to O-line masterminds every year in Dallas to try and learn more about that. I don't know that you can operate even in that extreme. Like I don't push back on Greg very often because what basis would I have to do that? But I have to count the statistics, the production for something, right? To just completely discount them, to completely throw them out the window, it almost negates the purpose of playing the games. At that point, why don't you just draft them? Now, you obviously have to spend a period of time in college football before you can be draft eligible. So you're going to have to play these games no matter what your athletic profile is, no matter what you think of counting stats. But I think that really throws a different kind of a wrench into the discussion for us around quarterbacks, which we can circle back to when it's time to evaluate quarterbacks. Keep it locked here on 104.5 The Zone. We'll talk some Titans coming up next. We're going to play a game. Going to play a game of better, worse, or the same. Now, Robert, like anything in sports media, this is a game that's stolen.
We stole it.
It's ours. It's ours for now. We borrowed it. I'm not stealing it. We can give it back if we want to, but we're going to steal a game that we're going to play with you guys here in just a second. If you want to jump in the final hour, you're welcome to do so. 615-737-1045 is that number. If you want to chime in via the F&M Bank chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where people are having a conversation about our previous topic of what is a project quarterback. Some comments being left there. Jacob says, Cam Ward proved he can work under multiple systems. Richardson barely played. I think some can make an argument that Cam's experience overcomes physical differences, physical advantages. Why, yeah, I don't think anybody would make the argument to the opposite. It is better to refine your skill to play the position of quarterback. The only way that you can improve is by playing the position, by getting the reps, by going through the monotony, the routine to improve that. It would give you an advantage over just the outright athletic skill, or rather athletic traits, every time. There's a difference between talent and skill. Tim Howard was kind of doing this the other day with Christian Pulisic, right? Who, by the way, I don't want to be dismissive of these reports, Robert.
Buck, he fractured his leg.
Okay, it's a fracture. It's like a big time fracture.
That's what the article says. Christian Pulisic admits he had fractured his right leg. Fractured. Kind of like my interest in the World Cup now has been fractured.
I hate that these things come out after the fact, and I don't want to discount him playing or him having to leave the field due to a fracture. But I don't know. Is it callous to say I don't want to hear about it after the fact, after you get smoked 4-1, after you have you didn't have the fracture during the rest of your poor World Cup performances? Is it relevant information to me now?
It feels really NBA playoff loss. Oh, I've had a bone bruise this whole time. Or, oh, I've been playing through a phalange fracture or something. I had a hangnail. That's kind of what it feels like. Everyone stopped going so hard on me because I was hurt. And I played through it, guys. When he really didn't. He kind of rested everything.
No, he didn't play through it, right? He got pulled.
Right.
Did you see this Pardon My Take interview that Taylor Twellman did?
I did not.
So Pardon My Take, obviously the Barstool podcast of great fame and success. And Taylor Twellman, one of the foremost soccer analysts that we have in this country, and he did an appearance recently on Pardon My Take. I think this is the week that the Lake Tahoe golf event goes on, the celebrity golf event every year that like Curry and Aaron Rodgers and Tony Romo and all these people playing. I bet Vrabel's not playing in it this year. That's something he usually goes to. I imagine that would, yeah, probably not. I don't know, but probably not. The interview on Pardon My Take. In fact, you could probably pull this from their feed. I don't want to misquote Taylor Twellman, but the summary of the Taylor Twellman interview is Christian Pulisic doesn't want to be the guy. And we're because he is one of the most talented, if not the most talented American soccer players that we've ever produced, we are square pegging Christian Pulisic when he doesn't necessarily fit that mold. I think some of that is fair, but I don't think you get to choose. This is like Anthony Edwards. You remember the dialogue around Anthony Edwards where he was asked, if LeBron James retires, I think this was sometime around the 2024 Paris Olympics. He was asked something to the effect of, if LeBron's done, are you ready to be the face of the league? And he expressed a lack of interest in being the face of the NBA. Well, if you're the best American basketball player going right now, sure, Wembanyama could do it. Jokic could do it. Brunson, I don't know, even though he's just won the title for New York or part of a title-winning team for New York. But if Anthony Edwards doesn't want to be the face of the league, does he get to choose? If LeBron James came out and said, I don't want to be the face of the NBA. If Tom Brady came out and said, I don't want to be the face of or Mahomes, I guess, to use an active player. If Mahomes said, I don't want to be the face of the NFL, do you get to choose? Or do you just have to strive for that greatness when that burden, and it's a burden for sure, it's an honor, but it's a burden, when that burden is kind of thrust upon you? Does Pulisic get to pick that way? At the end of the day, if he's not the soccer equivalent of Anthony Edwards or Patrick Mahomes, is that a fair thing to put him in? Because my ignorance of the sport will betray me here, but the way that I understand it is if he's your third best attacking player, then you've got a really good team. If you try to make him your focal point, it's going to go the way that it went.
If you're scared, say you're scared. That's my biggest thing with Pulisic. If you're scared and you don't want to do it, you don't want the team on your back, then say that. Just say, hey, I don't want the ball. I'd rather be an accessory. That's cool.
Well, they tried to make him. I mean, they made him an accessory, right? Balogun was the lead goal scorer. They were setting up their attack around Balogun, not around Pulisic. But even then, Pulisic had an underwhelming performance, and this was before the fracture. So it's relevant information to know that he sustained a fracture in the loss. What I do not want it to turn into is some kind of excuse-making for Christian Pulisic because he did not have the fracture for the rest of the poor World Cup performance. He did experience a previous injury to his calf. I think he was kicked in the back of the calf, if I remember correctly, that caused him to miss a little bit of the time during this World Cup run, but his impact was not felt. We are trying to identify an American soccer superstar the way that France has Mbappe and England has Kane and Argentina has Messi. Ronaldo's not that for Portugal anymore. Whomever you might name for Spain or Germany. The rest are Holland, Erling Haaland for Norway. We are looking for that player. We have tried to make Pulisic that player. He is not. And I don't know, Robert, if he has to come out and say, because I think he's tried to avoid coming out and saying anything about it, like acknowledging it. And I think that's just his way of trying to get through it. The expectation of him is probably not fair, but I don't think you get to pick and choose what the expectations of you are. I think you just have to try and live up to it. And, the way that he is currently trying to live up to those standards or that expectation and failing to live up to it, it's not, he's not impressing anybody. For that to be the most watched, we just heard that Westwood One World Cup update that we've been doing the last couple of weeks while the World Cup's been on, and whoever the broadcaster was, forgive me for not paying close enough attention there, but whoever the broadcaster was that was doing the update mentioned that it was the most watched soccer telecast in our country's history. We think a single person became a U.S. men's national team fan by watching that game for the first time. If it's the most watched soccer broadcast, now the run helped generate excitement, but on the biggest stage for soccer that we've had domestically, they probably cost themselves more fans than they won over by simply appearing in the round of 16. That's the other part of the conversation that I haven't really enjoyed in the fallout. Obviously, the World Cup run for the U.S. is done. It's not a new thing. It's not a shocking thing. Those of you who have followed the World Cup much closer than Robert or me, Lucas is obviously a diehard fan. You would say, well, this is par for the course. This is your standard American World Cup experience. Then why is it people are trying to sell it to me as some kind of success just because they may be more talented than previous U.S. men's teams, but they did the same thing as basically every other U.S. men's national team before them. I know we have, as a country, made it past the round of 16 before, but that making it past the round of 16 would have made this a good World Cup. This is not. For us, there is more bad in the way that the U.S. exited than there is good, correct? If you just did the same thing as most of your predecessors before you, But this time you did it in as embarrassing a fashion as you can remember with the way that you exited. There is probably more harm that you've done than actual good with the momentum that you've built up. So I haven't loved the dialogue about, well, we should still be proud and all these different things. I don't feel pride about the U.S. men's national team. I feel profound disappointment. But maybe that's on me. I don't know. Maybe that's on me for thinking that they were more than they were. Because I didn't factor in the idea that they're just simply beating up on inferior competition, and when they play a real team, they get smoked. They get squashed like a bug. Is that acceptable? I don't know. I'll leave that for people who follow soccer on a closer basis than me to decide. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. So we're going to play this game, better, worse, or the same, regarding the Titans roster, coming up next.
This is a different court, Blair. Same result, Slay. Oh, okay, Blair. See, that's Tyler Tanner. See, Tyler Tanner's in the house now.
Let's see what you got. Jerry's out, Blair.
Blair, come on. Okay, Blair, just come sit down. Come on, Blair. Blair, stop. You're going to get hurt. Blair, get off the court. That's enough.
What's the verdict, Blair?
The courtroom is where I play ball. Boy, Durham, injury law. And that ain't got no roof.
All right, so I promise we're going to play this game. Better, same, or worse, Titans roster this year, last year. I promise we're going to play the game. But as we were coming back from the commercial break, something came across my timeline that just made my shoulders sag a little bit and sigh. I am tired of talking about Caitlin Clark. Now, we don't do it a lot on the local show. I do it mostly on the national show that I do for Fox Sports Radio. And I'm not tired of Caitlin Clark. I am tired of stories about doing WNBA talk under the guise of, well, it's really just Caitlin Clark talk and some kind of drama involving whatever happened to Caitlin Clark this week. There's an ESPN article, and I'm sure I'll spend more time on it this weekend, speaking of the national show, that just made me roll my eyes. Robert, are we past the stick to sports era? Lucas hates when I try to have this conversation with him, but I can't help it. Every time somebody says, like I saw something yesterday, we're talking about Trump, or 2 days ago, 3 days ago, Monday, right, before the U.S. game, and we played that Trump sound. And he's talking about Balogun's red card and the decision by FIFA to allow Balogun to play for the U.S. men's national team in Belgium before the game was lost. And somebody tuned in, and I saw immediately a couple, not a ton, because most people understood the context, but a couple of comments that said, oh, I must have gotten the wrong channel. I thought this was sports. Well, it's the President of the United States talking about a decision for the U.S. men's national team that he directly impacted. He called FIFA and then made comments about calling FIFA regarding a game that we were previewing. So in that specific situation, they are the same. When I see an article like this from Kendra Andrews on ESPN.com, a group of 11 Republican lawmakers led by U.S. Representative August Pfluger, I think is how you pronounce the name, of Texas, sent a letter to WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert on Wednesday demanding the league take, quote, accountability for, quote, multiple attacks against Indiana Fever star Caitlin Clark. So if the people in politics are going to continue to insert themselves into sports, is that our fault if we bring it up? Or is it on the people who are trying to use sports for their political posturing? Is that on them? I struggle with this because this is a conversation that I think it's a conversation that I'm interested in having on why the hell they feel it's necessary to send a message threatening legal action against the WNBA on behalf of Caitlin Clark, who at every turn has said, no, thank you. I'm good. I don't need your help. I don't need your pity. I don't need this additional scrutiny. Why do political figures insist, and including, it's not just this political cycle or this particular presidential administration or this particular group of Republican lawmakers or whatever. It's not specific to one party. It's not the first time that political figures have tried to insert themselves into sports for gain, for personal gain. But I get so tired of the people who are screaming at us about stick to sports when the political people won't stop sticking their fat noses into sports and making us talk about this crap. Anyway, do more Caitlin Clark over the weekend. Better, same, or worse? You want to play a game?
Let's play a game.
Let's play a game. All right. So this is a game you stole from your Ravens podcast?
It is, yes, where they went through the entire Ravens roster and tried to decide whether the position group was in a better spot, in relatively the same spot, or in a worse position than it was in 2025.
Classic sports talk radio. I love it. So,
where do you want to start at? You want to start at the top? You want to start in an odd spot? I'm down to just spin the twister wheel and see where we land at.
Just for the purposes of keeping this, making sure that I keep my train of thought here, let's start at the top and work down. So let's start offense. Let's start quarterback. Are they better? Are they the same? Or are they worse as a quarterback room than they were in 2025? So let's take a look at the quarterback options. Cam, obviously, Brandon Allen. Will Levis was not. He was technically a member of the Tennessee Titans. Will Levis was not available to the Titans last year. Versus this year, Cam Ward, Mitch Trubisky, Will Levis, Hendon Hooker. You would objectively say that the quarterback room, even if it's just by nature of having more options, is a better quarterback room than the quarterback room this team last fielded. Brandon Allen was never going to be a legitimate option. I really, And we had this conversation. I know Zach Lyons had some version of, well, if Cam Ward gets hurt, you don't want Brandon Allen to be good. You don't want Brandon Allen to you don't want Brandon Allen to compete in games. You want Brandon Allen to lose, so you get the better possible draft pick. And I understood that notion, but that notion, and I hope I'm not misquoting Zach there, but that train of thought or that notion indicated that Cam Ward absolutely 100% had to be the starting quarterback for the Tennessee Titans last year. And I never agreed with that assessment. In fact, I would have much preferred the Titans take the approach that the Raiders are taking with Mendoza, which is you go find a Kirk Cousins and you play Mendoza only at the point where you feel he's ready to actually compete. There's no rule that says you definitively must play a quarterback that you draft number 1 overall as soon as humanly possible. If it's to the quarterback's detriment, don't put him out on the field. Last year, I don't know. I don't know where the delineating line would have been between last year, it's an interesting conversation, was last year more helpful or hurtful to Cam Ward? Because you could say, well, there was no way that he was going to get experience in 17 games. There's value in every experience that you have in the National Football League, even if you're getting your teeth kicked in at every turn, and he was. Not just in terms of the sack totals, but in terms of the win-loss margin as well. Is Cam Ward a better player for having survived or trying to survive as best he could the early onslaught of the first 2/3 of their season and then playing better football down the stretch? Because he was playing better football at the end of the year. I think you could make the compelling argument to say that it was probably more harmful to Cam than it was helpful to Cam to just put him through that meat grinder that was a 17-game regular season before he was objectively ready. And I'm sure there's some dissenting opinion in the building. I'm sure there's people on that coaching staff or the previous coaching staff that would say, no, he was ready. There's no benefit in shelving him. I don't know. There's no perfect way to go about it. I just think you could have saved yourself a lot of harm to Cam by having a viable option start even half the games before Cam was ready to go, and then let him gain that experience. I don't think that 17 games versus 8 games would have made an appreciable difference for him. Maybe I'm wrong about that. There's no way to tell. Obviously, that story's already in hand. Running back. Better, same, or worse? The running back group in 2025, Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, Khalil Mowings, Julius Chestnut. Well, you basically keep all of those players, but you add Nick Singleton and Michael Carter into the mix. Nick Singleton, a 5th-round pick this year. He may have gone higher in this year's draft had he not injured his foot. I think he hurt himself at the Senior Bowl, if I remember correctly, the Penn State running back. He's also got a tremendous amount of usage. He's a player who was at Penn State for a considerable amount of time. So maybe he was never going to be more than a day 3 pick, but he's a dynamic player when he's healthy. He just hurt himself coming into the draft process.
While the depth is better, I don't know how much of a difference. If you were going to say the future outlook of this position, I would say better. But I'm probably going to be in the same boat on this because I don't know how much impact Singleton or Carter have on this season. If everything goes to plan and everything's hunky-dory with injuries, I would imagine that Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are going to do relatively close to the same thing they did last year. The offensive line has potentially improved. We'll get to that momentarily. But I wouldn't say that large sweeping changes have been made to say that this is overwhelmingly a better room for this season. Now, if we were doing an argument for the room going forward, sure, you have a guy who could potentially take Tony Pollard's spot as the number 1, but I just don't know how much run Singleton gets. When I think about Pollard, I think about Pollard as like DeMar DeRozan. He needs to take shots. He needs to have opportunities. He's not a guy that you could say, oh, we have a 3-headed horse or a 3-headed monster in the backfield, and we're going to get all these guys work. I think Tony needs to consecutively get work.
Yeah, so if you categorize that group largely the same. Now, if A thing that could happen here is that Singleton could usurp Tajay Spears in that role. He's not quite as dynamic a receiving option. He can do it. He's got good skills in pass protection, which is critical. If you want to find ways to stay on the field, protecting your quarterback in obvious passing situations is a huge part of that. Coaches will count that as a mark for him, a feather in his cap. But yeah, you would say largely the running back room is the same. Wide receiver is better.
Far and away. I mean, yeah, I think you could make an argument this is the most improved position, definitely on offense, but on the whole team writ large.
On the offense, for sure. You could make the argument for the entire team. So the addition there is two players, right? It's Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson, and potentially the return of, I mean, it's not potentially. Calvin Ridley is going to be a part of this receiving room. He took less money. He restructured his contract in a way that would pay him less and allow him to earn back some of that money via incentives. Calvin Ridley at 30+, coming off a broken leg of his own and a poor year last year. The wide receiver room is the most improved room on the offense. I don't think that's up for discussion, even if it is just the addition of the two players.
Do you want to do offensive line as a whole?
Yeah.
Or, I mean...
Now, somebody says, what I'm not going to do is go to extremes. Somebody on YouTube says, oh, my God, yes, wide receiver is loaded this year. They're not loaded. They have Wan'Dale Robinson, who's been a productive player. They have Carnell Tate, who has not played a snap. They have Calvin Ridley, who's a bit broken. And they have two fourth-round guys who played way more football than they should have had to play last year. One of them's an all-pro returner, not a receiver. They're not loaded. They're not the Bengals, right?
Yeah, I'd say they probably rank somewhere between...
They're league average. They're closer to league average than they've been in a while.
Which is a huge jump.
Huge jump.
I mean, they were probably 30, 31, or 32 last year with overall wide receiver talent. Now, I wouldn't say they're in the upper half of the league, but I'd say they're around 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, somewhere in there.
I can definitively say that you have a solid wide receiver room, and I have not been able to say that in some time. Offensive line across the board, I think they're worse. Now, I don't know who's going to play right guard definitively yet. You got the Volson dude who comes in here in free agency. He's got a bunch of starts. He's not been a good player. I don't think the Slater dude. I mean, we'll see what happens when pads come on, but I think Volson is going to be the guy.
And it's okay when you're talking about Slater for him to be a career backup. If you're a career backup in the NFL, you are valuable. It is a necessary component. It's okay if a fifth-round guy, what was he, a fifth-round pick, sixth-round pick?
Volson?
Slater.
Slater's a fifth-rounder.
It's okay if a fifth-rounder is relegated to being a backup his entire career.
Yep.
That's okay.
Corey Levin was a fifth-round pick.
Right. And he's going to be serviceable when you have an injury. He's a guy who can come in and play. But I feel like when people hear that, they're like, oh, you're down on this guy. It's okay if he doesn't win the job. He was a fifth-round pick. If you get anything out of that guy over a 4-year span, it's a win.
He doesn't have to make it. Fifth-round picks don't even have to make the roster.
You would hope they do, but no, they don't.
Yeah, you hope they do. But like, if you're talking about the cutoff point for me, like fifth-round pick is where you start to get into a situation where, yeah, you could take or leave that player. Would you like for that player to make the roster? Of course. But if you have a better option or a more reliable option or whatever the case may be, you can jettison a fifth-round pick and not think twice about it. So Slater, I'm going to say Volson's the starter. I'm going to say Schlotman's also the starter. I don't think Pat Coogan is coming in here. Now, Andre James is a veteran center option who's played for Carmen Brasillo in Vegas.
Correct. And has started, I think, almost 3 times the amount of games that Austin Schlotman has in the NFL.
Now, he was, he's coming in here on a very, very, very reasonable contract, and he's not been outright good in a while. But he gives you an option. So if Schlotman is not viable or Schlotman is less viable than you previously imagined, Andre James is a starting caliber option. Schlotman is also a starting caliber option, but I think it's a problem that we're talking about. You don't definitively know who your starting center is. Cushenberry was a disappointment. That's not all on Lloyd. An Achilles tear late in the season in his first year, asking him to come back at that position. There was another injury. Somebody told me about this after the fact, that he had another injury. I want to say it was a collarbone injury or something like that. He was playing through something else. Now, it wasn't
last year?
Yeah, it wasn't like Pulisic where they came out after the fact at the end of the season and said, oh, he had, a fracture I can't remember specifically the nature of the injury. I could probably go back and find it in my text messages. But I know he had something additional that he was playing through. So I don't think that any of them are better than Lloyd Cushenberry is if Lloyd Cushenberry was at his best. Now, Lloyd Cushenberry has also been relegated to a reserve role in Buffalo, right? He's the backup center with the Bills. Lloyd Cushenberry is a backup. You could do a lot worse. I think it's a worse unit than last year's was. I think whatever they do is worse than Zeitler at right guard, unless they bring back Zeitler, and even then, you're playing a bit of what's the word that I'm looking for? It's he's at the end of his career. It's no guarantee that Zeitler is going to continue to be a starting caliber option now that he's past 35. Zeitler is still technically an unrestricted free agent. I don't have a real indication that he is close to returning or that he's considering other options. He just seems to be kind of hanging out there in the void, and we'll see what happens as we get closer to training camp.
The biggest knock on this unit for me is the fact that they weren't able to add either through the draft, and they did in free agency, but adding offensive linemen, especially a tackle in free agency, is usually a fool's errand. Like, good tackles don't hit free agency.
Well, the tackle that they added is your boy.
I mean, we couldn't draft.
What's your nickname for him?
Austin Doo-Doo Deculus was ranked as the worst tackle in the NFL last year. You talked about the myriad.
He's on the Chargers for what it's worth, and now he's a Titan.
And Andre James was as well.
Yeah.
But Andre James is your third string center currently, as it's marked out. We talked about the plethora of options and the mix and match things that you have at right guard and center. If one option doesn't work or if another one doesn't suit your fancy, you do not have that luxury at tackle. Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon is probably still as much of a bumbling, fumbling, rumbling giant at tackle as he was last year.
UDFA out of Florida.
Right. And Austin Doo-Doo Deculus, excuse me while I sneeze.
Oh, it's going to get stuck now.
It's okay. No, you almost talked me out of it. Oh, I hate when sneezes hang on the edge.
Nothing worse than a sneeze getting stuck. It just kind of sits at the tip of your nose there like that and like stings a little bit.
They do not have the luxury of having depth at tackle, and few teams in the NFL do, but I would have loved for them to add a late round draft pick in the room.
Well, the wild card here is Carmona, to me. Fernando Carmona has played tackle. He's not a tackle at the NFL level, and I don't even know if he's a starting caliber guard. Now, Coogan and Carmona, Pat Coogan out of Indiana, 6th-round pick. Carmona, it says on Our Lads that he was a 5th-round pick. The bio that I have of him from the Titans says he's a 4th-round pick. So
For Carmona? I believe he was a 4th-round pick.
Well, that's weird. So I have two separate pieces of paper on Carmona. I have their full draft picks bio thing that says he's a 5th-round pick. And then I have his individual bio with a cover sheet of him that says he's a 4th-round pick. I think he was a 5th-round pick.
Let me look at how they're slotted because it might have been a compensatory pick. I'll tell you real quick where he was.
Was he after? He was before Singleton.
Yeah, he's a fully fledged 5th-round pick. I thought he was a 4th.
So somebody just, because I'm looking, I'll just show for the audience on Zone TV. I'm looking at his printed out thing here that the Titans gave us after he was drafted. It says he's round 4, pick 142, but then on his draft pick sheet here, it says that he's a 5th-round pick.
He was a 2nd pick in the 5th round.
Okay, so he's a 5th-round pick. They just misprinted on one sheet. Carmona and Coogan, will they factor in? I would say Andre James has a better chance to start at center than Pat Coogan would for the Titans. I would say that Carmona, I know that the versatility is something that they are citing there. Both players have played a tremendous amount of college football, which for the offensive line, if you can't get guys who have athletic upside, and these are not guys who have athletic upside, you want guys who have a significant amount of experience. Carmona as a transfer player, ending his career at Arkansas. Coogan as a transfer player, ending his career as a national champion at Indiana. We'll see what headway those two guys can make. Carmona, I mean, theoretically, Carmona could start.
You wouldn't want him to.
I would not want him to. And that's not like a knock on him. I just want a player at the start of the year who's going to give Cam Ward his best chance. I don't believe Carmona may be that. If Volson becomes completely unmanageable, for example, there was a situation in 2019, Robert, so this would have been before you got here, and the Titans had drafted Nate Davis out of Charlotte, third-round pick. Nate Davis was not starting right away. The Titans were starting a player named Jameel Douglas. Jameel Douglas was objectively terrible. He was ragdolled thoroughly by one of your favorite players. I'm blanking on his name. Ravens defensive lineman.
Brandon Williams?
Cardinals defensive lineman.
Oh, Calais Campbell.
Calais Campbell. He was just soundly got his ass kicked by Calais Campbell against the Jags in week 3 on Thursday Night Football. Then the Titans went to Atlanta in week 4, and it was Grady Jarrett that was just giving Jameel Douglas absolute fits. So they finally, under duress, and this was one of the worst. This is one of Vrabel's flaws. I felt like they were reticent, they were loath to start rookies because they felt like veteran players gave them a better chance to succeed right out the gate, and they're probably right about that. But in the case of Jameel Douglas and Nate Davis, they put Nate Davis in that Atlanta game. They ended up winning the Atlanta game. Not just because of Nate Davis, but they were able to keep Marcus Mariota, then Ryan Tannehill a little cleaner. That feels like Volson and Carmona to me. Now, Carmona was obviously not the kind of prospect that Nate Davis was out of Charlotte, but Volson is, I don't know, Volson is basically Jameel Douglas to me.
This was fun.
We can do defense tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to tell you.
All right, very good. John Houston says, let's be a little more optimistic, Buck. About what? The offensive line?
What is the...
Was I pessimistic about anything there?
No. I listen, I understand that you can be negative sometimes, but like, what is the point of talking about these things flippantly and just saying, oh, yeah, that's an improved unit. Oh, it's so good about that. Like, what good does that do for anyone?
Well, listen, some people just want happy hand job radio. Like, that's just what it is, okay? And I don't know if that's FCC safe for me to say, but whatever. Like, that's those are the kind of people who will tell you that things that they don't agree with on the internet, for example, are rage bait. You're rage baiting because you've said something that the person doesn't agree with. And so that it must immediately be rage bait because how could you think any differently than I think about something?
I feel like that's the hardest thing to decipher for some fans is, are you trying to rage bait me or are you actually talking about this objectively? And you really feel this way and this is a point of conversation. I don't feel like any point of that we were unfair to the Titans offense.
No, if you want your Titans OTPHJ commentary, you can go to some other place. I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to be overtly optimistic about an organization that's won 6 games in the last 2 years and didn't improve their offensive line unit year over year. I think that's and that's really the only place that I could really nitpick that they did not do enough is the offensive line. If you wanted my feeling on it, but if you're going to just take the one thing that you heard that you don't like because I'm down on that as opposed to other positions where I've just said that's probably your deepest wide receiver core ever, then I don't know. Somewhere else. 615-737-1045, the number if you want to jump in. Last call for phone calls if you got them. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Come hang out with us at Eastside Bowl next Thursday. It's the Split Happens Bowling Bash. It's hosted by our show, but we're going to have a lot of other Zone friends and family hanging out there with us.
My mom's going to be there.
Whose mom?
My mom.
Your mom?
Nah, I'm just kidding. I would never let her meet you.
Why?
She may take a fancy to you like Julie did earlier in the week, and I could never let that happen.
What are you going to
do? Jump out of a blimp, dude. Jump out of a blimp. That would be worst case scenario.
1045thezone.com is where you go to get your tickets, all to benefit Home Street Home. Great cause. You were yammering on this morning about this being a very important day in video game history, so I defer to our video game correspondent and expert, Robert Lee Walsh.
Maybe not in history, but at least for where we are in the summer. If you're a normie today, you can play the college football video game, which EA has came out, and they have recanted part of their microtransactions. Apparently, they are reverting the sliders, so now you can add the fast and faster version of Coach XP to your dynasty, and you don't have to pay $99 to max your coach out. So that's a good piece of news. You'll be able to play that game. I believe it's out now. I think that's what I'm going to do when I get off work. Head home, download it, and start my ECU dynasty. But today is also, I don't know if you played this. Were you a big computer game guy as a kid?
Played Roller Coaster Tycoon, Zoo Tycoon, Sims.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure there was those are the three primaries, though.
I played computer games since I was a wee child.
I think there was a Star Wars computer game, maybe.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Sure.
Knights of the Jedi Temple or something like that. I didn't play that. I played, like, children games on the computer when I was a kid, like Pajama Sam.
I'm not familiar.
Don't Be Frightened of Thunder and Lightning.
No.
God, what was the fish one? There was a fish one where they... Anyway, Backyard Baseball.
Oh.
Out today.
Okay.
Pablo Sanchez.
I remember Backyard Baseball.
Dude, my buddies are already trying to get a way where we can have a tournament. I have a beach trip planned in August. They're talking about somebody bringing a computer so we can have a tournament and pick teams. I'm excited about it.
Oh
I'm
my
not
God,
a big
the nostalgia of just seeing the characters
and just hearing the announcers.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait. But so that should all be a lot of fun. Nobody try to talk to me for the rest of the summer. Should be good.
Knights of the Old Republic.
There you go. That's what it was.
Shout out to Kent in the chat.
Knights of the Old Republic. That's worth a playthrough again. Oh, you know what else I played? I was such a nerd. A lot of my history knowledge came from playing Age of Empires. You never played Age of Empires?
I don't think so.
Oh, dude, you'd be like the Byzantines or the Chinese. Anybody over the country, you can pick their civilization and you click and build barracks and create units, and you'd go try to raise their castles and all that kind of stuff. That's basically where all of my history knowledge came from that wasn't from a public school in North Carolina.
Public school education in North Carolina not getting it done for you?
It did well enough. It did well enough. I know more than my homeschooled compatriots, if that means anything for you. The teachers are smarter than the parents. Always a good stat to have.
Homeschool.
It's such a weird thing because if you would have asked me before, I'd been like, there's no way I would ever have my kid be homeschooled because every homeschool person I ever knew growing up was weird.
Yeah.
Like no social interaction at all. But now, the world we live in, like, it used to be the worst thing is you'd ride the bus home for the first time and he'd be like, oh, you know, like balls now. Or you know, like anatomy words or slang. It's like, oh, the kid rode the bus. He knows how to cuss now. Now it's like kids are getting into dangerous stuff early, man. I see more and more merit for being homeschooled, but I would also only do that if I was like Little House on the Prairie, off the grid, living in East Ya Bumblebleep nowhere, North Carolina.
I know you don't like him, so we don't...
don't bring him up. Don't talk about him. I have no clue who you're talking about.
Stillman.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yes. Agreed.
I like Jared. And he said, he texted me the other day. He was texting me something about Page Six or whatever. I'm sure he was on a Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel kick the other day. But he texted me, this is totally unrelated, but I can't wait to see Buck the dad. And he was describing his experience with his son, Jack, getting strep throat, and that put him on his ass for 3 days. And I said, it will never happen. I hate children. So you'll be waiting a while.
Can't wait to erase that from the podcast.
You and Cheyenne homeschooling your kids would be funny.
It would be tough because there's like actual, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to homeschool my kid and then do whatever you want to do. Like there's still rules and parameters.
You kind of have to do it.
They'd be like, oh, what is your, what classes are your kids taking? I was like, well, he's learning gardening. He's learning how to wrestle. He's learning how to shoot. And he's learning, like everything he's learning how to fish. Everything.
He's learning yard work.
Yeah, he's learning.
Yard work 101.
Growing up, I was an indentured
Roofing
servant
305
for my father. I mean, my dad would be like, hey, I mean, he's a jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy. And my dad would pull us out in the yard and be like, all right, today I got a job and we're cutting down trees in front of this, this billboard. And we'd go out there and chainsaw things. And the next day he'd be like, okay, we're going to go to your Aunt Aggie's house and build her a garden bed. So that day we'd be building a garden bed.
You'd never know this, but that was my high school experience too.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't believe that you have ever done manual labor. In fact, I think your only run-in with manual labor would be being introduced to a man named Manuel Labor. That would be the closest you would get to working with your hands.
Manuel?
Manuel Labor. Good to see you again, amigo.
No, my stepdad is a crusty old redneck that used to work. Rick's had any number of careers, but he used to do dynamite blasting for Black Beauty Coal.
Oh, fun.
He used to do field research for the EPA. My parents, my mom and my stepdad, live on 25 acres, so like manual labor is required. And Rick's whole joke was, in fact, I have a picture that I'll show you that you would never believe and probably think is AI at this point, of me in the bucket of a tractor, because we obviously have a tractor at the house, because there's a field, you go backhoe the field. Like I used to do manual labor.
I know terms, I know things.
I know things. But Rick's whole thing was, I'm trying to think how to phrase this properly, but basically you don't want your career to be with a shovel, so you're going to learn how to use the shovel now and realize how much you don't like the shovel. Turns out,
exactly what my dad
hated the shovel. My mom used to drive me past those mobile homes and be like, if you don't want to live there, you need to do well in school. Respectfully to all of our audience members and friends who live in mobile homes.
I mean, that was my biggest. My probably the only reason that I still work in radio today and I haven't gotten out and I'm not the manager of a Costco or a rent-a-car or Enterprise or something.
That sounds so much less fun unless you're working at the Enterprise that has Ted.
Yeah, well, so when I got out of college, the radio station I worked for had told me, hey, we're going to have a job for you when you graduate. So I was under that assumption. Well, the job they had for me was a sales job that was commission only, which I can't live on that. The whole time I was an intern for them for 2 years, I was getting paid in pizza gift cards. So I had to move back home. I had to move in with my dad. It was humiliating. Every part of my life, I was valedictorian. I graduated college. I had a double major. I had done everything right. And then I didn't get a job. I had to go work with my dad. I had to spray mosquitoes. I had to mow yards. In July.
Oh.
And I said, if I ever got another job in radio, I would give it everything that I had.
How's that going?
Yeah. Wish I was still out there. Wish I was still out there spraying. It's going pretty well.
That's going to do it for us today. We appreciate your participation as always. We'll have a primetime video available for you guys at 7 p.m. on A to Z Sports this evening. Tomorrow, we will continue our conversation about better, same, or worse with the Titans roster on the defensive side of the ball. See you then.